Slide right in. Thank you, Mike.
Beth, has the meeting been advised in accordance with the Public Meeting Act?
Yes, Chairman, it has.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hukevich?
Here.
Mr. Allegra?
Here.
Mr. Bolton?
Here.
Mr. Buchanan? Mr. Elmeyer? Ms. Larman? Thank you. Mr. Mueller?
Here.
Mr. Shaw? Councilman Zabrowski? Chairman Tai?
Here.
Mr. Cornell?
Here.
Mr. Fowler?
Here.
Mr. Sordillo?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have no more moralizations of resolutions, so I'll take when we have a roll call vote and a vote for the minutes. I need a.
Can I have a motion for the January 17th? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Chairman, do we have a communications?
none this evening.
None. Chairman, with the site plan.
This evening, we have one hearing, 2069 Highway 35 LLC preliminary and final major site plan, 2069 Route 35, Saraville.
Ready to present your case? Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, John Junko of Giordano, Howland, Cecil appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application to permit Route 69 Highway 35 LLC to amend their site plan. The site is currently located as lots 1, 2, and 2.01 in Block 428, known as 2069 Highway 35 in Saraville. The site operates as a garden and landscaping products business. The applicant had received some summons, and in response to that, had submitted a revised site plan to address those issues. The current application, the application is going to be presented before you, will seek variances. It will seek a variance for a front yard setback to an existing garage of 25 feet requiring 21.6 provided, and that, and second, a variance from providing a 50-foot buffer to residential zones. In addition, there is a variance for the front yard as outdoor storage for equipment and materials. The applicant's seeking several waivers. One is from providing a minimum of 10% of surface parking to be landscaped about the interior and to include one shade tree for every 20 parking spaces. A waiver from providing hairpin striping for all parking spaces. A waiver from providing all parking lots and all loading areas with concrete or Belgian block curbing. A waiver from providing sidewalk throughout the site and along the frontage. And a waiver from surfacing all of the off-street parking areas with bituminous concrete pavement, and finally, from dedicating off-street loading berth for the new pole barn. We have several witnesses, Mr. Chairman. Our engineer from French and Perillo is Lena Barone. Kurt Ludwig is the architect for the project, and Andrew Janu from Beacon Planning is our planner. We submitted our application and provided notice to the adjoining property owners and provided that proof of service to the board.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the public notice and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Bring up your witnesses.
All right, then I'm going to call Lena Barone. I'm going to offer that Ms. Barone is a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I'm going to ask her to present her credentials and offer her to the board as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Ms. Barone, if I may swear you in, do you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Lena, would you advise the board of your credentials?
So yes, I am a senior project manager and a shareholder at French and Perillo Associates. I have over 25 years of experience in land development. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and my license is current. I have a bachelor's of science from NJIT and a master's of engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. I have been practicing civil engineering for over 25 years and testified in front of many planning and zoning boards throughout the state of New Jersey as well as surrounding states.
Motion to accept the credentials?
Chairman, I make a motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, Lena, you've explained all your background. Did you prepare exhibits to submit in support of the application?
Yes, I did.
Can you can you then describe the prior approval and existing condition of the site?
Sure. So just to rehash on some of the background, as we said, the address is 2069 Highway 35. It's on the southbound lane, right adjacent to a jug handle, block 428, lots 1, 2, and 2.01 of approximately 1.977 acres. The site has frontage on Highway 35. That's its only frontage, including the ramp itself. And it's located in the B3 Highway Business Zone and currently operates as a landscape yard. In 2001, a site plan approval was granted with bulk C variances for the landscaping yard and an office use. The bulk variances were as follows. A variance was granted for the front yard setback as it relates to the existing garage, where 25 feet was required, 21.6 is provided. A variance was also granted from providing a 50-foot buffer to residential uses. And the previous owner had also received a use variance to continue the residential use on the property. The applicant purchased the property after the 2001 approval was granted. And at the time of the purchase, the property was only partially developed with a residential dwelling. So the applicant proceeded to make the site plan improvements to operate the business.
Now, can you describe well, you've pretty much described the existing conditions. Were there any other conditions you want to advise the board of?
Yes, so there are a couple of differences from the 2001 approval. So the property has been improved and is currently utilized as a landscaping yard. There are 3 structures on the property. There's the commercial building in the rear, the garage that the variance was obtained for, and the single-family home that is no longer being used as a residence. The commercial building contains the applicant's landscaping yard and office for sales. And there's also storage along the rear of the property, which is also the westerly side. There are currently 14 bins along the westerly property line and 2 bins along the easterly property line. And these bins are basically block enclosures that store landscape supply materials such as mulch, topsoil, and various types of stone. On our site plans, on our submitted plans, you will see along the southerly side, there are 5 bins shown. The bins existed at the time of the survey and at the time of the preparation of our site plan, but the applicant has since removed those bins located along the southerly property line. And
What's the total of the bins now?
Currently, it's 14 along the west, 2 along the east, nothing along the southerly property line. And then I just also wanted to note that based on our boundary and topographic survey that has been submitted as part of our application, we did note that there is an encroachment of the neighbor's fence onto the applicant's property that varies from 12 to about 15 feet onto
And is that on the southerly side?
That's on the southerly side, that's right. So that would be the existing condition.
Okay. So
So
based
to
on
go
that, did you
on-
make a proposal?
Right, so based on that, what we're proposing to do is to eliminate some of these encroachments and alleviate those concerns, and also to hopefully legalize the use and assist this business so that he can continue to operate this landscape yard. So we are proposing to remove the single-family dwelling that is no longer being used as a residence and replace it with a new pole barn building. That building would be 45 by 50 feet, and that building would be used as a storage building only, so akin more to a warehouse where some of the materials can be stored. On the opposite side of the existing parking spaces, we would construct 5 new parking spaces, which would serve the new pole barn as well as the existing office building if needed. We are asking so currently there's also outdoor display storage in the front yard as you drive down Route 35 in front of that residential building and the road. You see some machinery and materials are being stored. So we are asking for you to permit the outdoor display of equipment and materials in the front yard as shown on the plan. And we're also asking for that front yard storage to be not only in front of that existing building, but also in an area near the jug handle that's been outlined on the plan.
Now, Lena, that is display of equipment or machinery for sale
And
along with
materials.
materials.
That's right. As I noted earlier, the 5 existing bins that were located along the southern property line were removed. We are proposing to construct 2 new bins, which would be placed 50 feet away from the southern property line in order to provide the required buffer to residential uses. Furthermore, we are proposing to enhance and improve the existing buffer. Currently, along the southerly property line, there is a row of trees. We are proposing to enhance that by adding a lot more evergreens in a staggered fashion to supplement that buffer, and then also 3 more trees to be planted between the buffer and the bins. So in total, there would be 50 feet of landscaping between the property line and the bins.
And part of that would go into the encroachment area.
Yes. I also wanted to note, as far as the buffering goes, that what we are proposing are plants that are drought and salt tolerant, and once established, they can handle these conditions, that we specifically selected the plantings accordingly. They are native and non-invasive plants, and we would be proposing to irrigate those as they are being established, and once established, no irrigation will be needed. I know that was a question that was asked. So maybe just to go on to describe the outdoor storage, again, we would like to have outdoor storage in the front yard as shown on the plans. And we would like to maintain 14 bins total as part of this proposal.
Mr. Chairman, can the board administrator put the exhibits up on the screen?
Oh, I thought she was bringing paper.
No, we were asked to send PDFs.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while you're doing that, I just want to clarify your last statement. You said that you're going to want 14 bins, but I thought you said there's going to be 14 bins on the easterly side and 2 bins on the
Well, that's
westerly.
what it is currently. We're
Okay.
proposing 12 bins on the westerly side, 2 bins on the southerly side. We have to move the bins out of the easterly side because they interfere with an existing sanitary sewer easement over which there can be no structures. So as far as the site operation, this configuration that I just described would allow us to continue the same access to the site that is from the existing driveway that is located along the northern property line. We are not proposing any changes to that access. The rendering, if you have that one up. Those two plans, and if not, then sheet 3,
Three.
that one.
This one?
Thank you.
That one or the next one? Oh,
This one, or?
No, the one previous one.
thank you. Thank you. Lena, these were exhibits that you prepared or others under your direction and were submitted with the application? and
Yes.
Reproduced them here for submission to the board to demonstrate the site.
Yes, that's correct. So then just go back to the access while the exhibit is being pulled up. Well, not today, but not so long ago, there was a secondary access south of the jug handle. There was an existing curb cut. Based on our research, we did not find any documentation that DOT has issued a permit for this curb cut, but this curb cut nonetheless exists. The applicant was using that. So since that, the applicant has blocked access by placing large blocks in front of it so that trucks can no longer travel down there. And we are also, as part of the site plan approval, proposing landscaping in order to physically put trees and vegetation so that the access cannot be utilized.
Now, Lena, as we look at the exhibit that's now on the screen, you're speaking about the area at the bottom of the page, correct?
That's correct, right here. Bottom of the page, which is just south of the jug handle.
And that was a driveway, and based on the summons, it's been closed off.
Yes,
And I understand that that has been noticed and inspected by CME.
so if you want, I could jump into the letter, the technical review comments by CME.
I think so.
So I just wanted to then, start from the beginning. As far as obtaining additional approvals from outside agencies, we agree with everything except for item E. Since we are closing that access and it's not something that the applicant has not constructed at curb cut, we would just not be even seeking to go to NJDOT. There's no plan to remove the curb.
Mr. Chairman, the reason we have that in our report is the original application was less intense than what is currently proposed. So we felt that the DOT should at least have a chance to look at what the current proposal is, since there was never approval granted by the DOT for what is there now.
If we provided a letter of no interest, or if one of our traffic engineers did that and obtained the letter of no interest, would that be sufficient?
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Yes, as long as there's something from the DOT that they're aware of what's being proposed and they have no objection or they require a permit.
Okay.
Jay, they'll be required to get a permit from the DOT for the driveway?
They're not proposing to modify their driveway, but they are intensifying the use. So the question is, did the DOT need to review it because of the intensification or not? So that's the issue. So
It was never approved by the DOT. And another question is, how many parking spaces were allowed on the original site plan? Because they're using that driveway now for parking. So what is the approved parking and what are they requesting now?
there were a total of, well, I guess the
A
applicants.
total of 8 was approved. We require 9 with this new building, and we're providing 13. And I would
That wasn't
also,
the question. The question was, what was approved in
8.
2001 before our client owned the property?
Versus now, right? And then is that parking going to be included on his driveway?
no, so the parking would be in a, well,
Right,
actually,
if you
maybe
go
you
back
pull
to
up
the,
the exhibit again.
Lena can identify the location of the parking for you. It's coming.
So the parking would be in between the two buildings and also behind the existing pole barn building. Now, I would also like to point out that the driveway is 31 feet wide, which would still allow somebody, if they had to pull over, they can on the side, and it still allows for adequate maneuvering for two-way traffic.
That's
You're
what I'm
not
saying.
proposing any parking
No, we're
along the
not
driveway?
proposing any parking. I'm just saying, I have observed that oftentimes people will pull up against the building.
So you'll get approval for the driveway, less the parking on the driveway.
Okay. And then furthermore, I know that there is a requirement that this be reviewed by the fire official, so if the fire official requires fire lane markings or anything like that, we will comply with it. So do you want me to address your letter, Mr. Cornell, point by point, or should I just maybe go to certain items?
Mr. Chairman,
I think we should go through.
I would think you
Point by
probably should,
point?
there's a lot of issues, so you probably should,
Go one by one.
Okay,
if it's something you can address, you can just say we'll agree, but most of them are waivers or other questions that really need to be discussed by the board.
so item 1, we just discussed the permits. Item 2, the proposed use of lot 2.01. So we have amended the plans to show that there will be no access on lot 201, and the area will be landscaped to prohibit any access.
For number 3, we have an architect that will testify this evening.
Planner report, we also have a planner who will testify this
Ready,
evening.
prepared to testify this evening.
Item 5, we have no objection to consolidating the lots. We will obtain the new numbers from the tax assessor. Item 6, so we are requesting for a waiver from providing sidewalk along the frontage, being that there are no sidewalks north of the property, and then going south, you'd have to cross over the jug handle. So we would not be proposing to do that.
Mr. Chairman, that waiver was granted with the original application. Our office doesn't see any problem with that. As it was indicated, there's really no pedestrian traffic in this area.
Thank you.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, before we move on, just going back to item number 5, just to confirm one way or the other, are you asking for subdivision lot consolidation approval from the board as part of this application for the consolidation of the lots? Or are you saying that they're consolidating as operation by law?
Consolidation deed. We'll file it by deed.
There are multiple lots present now. The intent is just to combine it into one lot.
Okay. I just want to be clear for resolution purposes.
Super.
Item number 7, the loading berth is required per the building, so we are requesting a waiver of this requirement as, there is plenty of loading on the site itself, and this building would not store any large equipment like that in order to need a separate loading berth.
What type of vehicles are used for deliveries to the site?
So deliveries to the site are, dump trucks would deliver the landscape materials and supplies.
What about tractor trailers with pavers?
Yeah, and they would access the rear. They would not need to be doing that. Like the
They
applicant
wouldn't
is not
access, they
planning
would access from Route 35.
from Route 35, but go to the rear of the property where the bins are. There would be no need for a large trailer to access the new building.
What's the size of the trailer you can get back down on that hill?
So if you pull up sheet 5, I think it is.
5?
No, it's not 5.
5?
Site plan?
Well, no, there's a truck turning template. Can you go down? Keep going. There it is, 9. Oh, yeah. So on sheet 9, you will see the vehicle and the maneuvering to get to the back of the property.
Why don't you describe what you're showing, Lena?
So we are showing the access off of the existing driveway, heading back to the rear of the property. And then you have to turn around in order to back in to do the pickup of the materials
My
or
point,
drop off.
There's no turnaround there. You have to either back down or back out.
Well, no, you can pull forward and then go along the side of the building and then back in.
So I think what the chairman was saying, do you anticipate anyone will back out onto Route 35?
No,
We're providing
Further down the hill, how are they gonna turn around? There's no cul-de-sac down at the bottom of the hill. Where you're moving the bins, right? That's, the road goes down, you're moving the bins. Where are you gonna turn? You gotta back out or
Yes.
pull in?
In fact, let Lena explain that. I think you'll pick it up right away. Why don't you show how the vehicle, how the
so you're
trucks would
coming in,
enter?
right? You're going forward here, forward, then you pull forward and then you back down towards the bin. And then you just pull forward and out of the site.
Okay.
Which is really similar to what they do right now.
If you have a delivery of pavers, for example,
Mhm.
how does that work with that configuration? That looks like it shows how someone is going to get to the bin. If you've got pavers that are going to be delivered to the site and then stockpiled at a certain location, how would that delivery work?
Well, you could do a similar thing where then instead of pulling forward behind the building, you could pull forward this way in the middle and then back in to drop off the pavers, say over here, right? And then you could just do another maneuver back in and out to come back to the front.
So you're saying you don't need an area where a vehicle has to park to unload? That's going to be accomplished in that entire,
Well, this
area to the-
entire area here is used for that maneuvering. The entire area that's
I
up
think,
against
Lena,
the
I
jug
think
handle.
Mr. Cornell's question was the actual unloading. Because the trailer would be unloaded with a forklift, pallet, they'll take a look, stop them until, move them out of the way, the truck
The trailer
leaves, and
gets
then
out.
they'll put them where they're gonna display them, store them. So I think, Lena, are you
Right, so you're
suggesting that there's adequate area for all of
Right,
these
so
maneuvers?
that's what I'm saying is that there is currently areas that are being used for loading and unloading that a new area for this building is not needed per se.
and for the board's information, you're technically supposed to have a 12-foot by 50-foot designated stall for vehicles to come in and load and unload. The applicant is requesting a waiver, and they're explaining how that's accomplished on that property. So that's really up to the board to decide.
Because effectively there is an existing loading and unloading area.
Again, picture from my phone, from the room, might make more sense. Explain better, but I don't have anything like this.
Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
The rear of the lot, the west side of the lot,
Mm-hmm,
not changing the front shop configuration, right?
right, so that's what I was gonna say next. It stays the
Stay
same.
the same spot on the southerly side.
Actually, they come a little bit forward from what was originally,
To load them right now.
yes. So that continues to be the same.
Turning radius in the rear of the lot is to be the same. as
Correct.
today.
Correct, there's no change to that.
Capable of loading your bins today?
Yes,
So you could assume you're gonna be capable still loading the bins, the same way you load them today.
yes.
Where are you storing the pallets of?
I got it.
lot?
So that's being stored in the rear part of the property.
On your drawing, you have like a tandem truck making deliveries,
That's not a tandem, no.
39 foot.
Yeah.
Box truck,
Yes,
that would be having your pallets delivered on. I'm delivering the pallets.
well, that would be also almost the size of a dump truck. I don't know actually how often a flatbed does come in.
Just suggest, do you have your pallets delivered to the rear of the building now?
To the rear, right? Yes,
Move a, well, this one is a 50-foot flatbed, or 40-foot flatbed back here now.
I'm not sure how that maneuvering is actually happening on a flatbed, but
I guess the concern is, right, that we don't want the truck backing out onto, right?
Right, this is designed so the trucks don't back out to the highway. Interior to the site, they will maneuver through the site in order to make that turn. But did you propose any signage to notify trucks that that you expect them to, no one backs out to the Route 35?
no, I did not propose any
Or we
signage.
can, if you think that'll be helpful.
Number 8,
So portions of the storage area are not paved with bituminous materials, but rather surfaced with gravel. We are requesting a waiver of this requirement as it would be more customary that a landscape yard like this has gravel as opposed to be fully paved. Um, So we're
let me
requesting
ask
a
you a
waiver.
question. Are you using gravel or millings?
Gravel is what was there before, and
Have
that's
you
what
ever
it should
put
be.
Millings on the property?
Well, that I don't know.
Right. Does anybody?
We're proposing a gravel.
Pea gravel you're gonna put down. Okay. You want a waiver for that?
Yes.
All right, we'll go to 10.
So we are asking for storage and display areas in the front yard setbacks, so that is, if you maybe, can you go back to sheet 4?
Or
So we hatch those areas in this crosshatch, so it will be the area along Route 35, along this jug handle, and then there's also a small portion of the jug handle again to the south of the property where we're asking for to be allowed to store materials and equipment.
Have you asked the Department of Transportation if you can do that?
Well, that would be within our property.
We forgot number 9, pursuant to the ordinance, parking lot areas are fully enclosed with either
Oh.
concrete.
Yes, so all the parking areas that are for the public would be curbed with a concrete curb. We are requesting a waiver for the rear portion of the site, which would not be curbed and not paved.
Again, Leo, maybe if you go to the exhibit, you can demonstrate where you do plan to put curb and where we're not planning any.
So there is existing curb right here along the building and where the parking is. We would also curb the new parking area as well. And then there's curb going out to the front and for this portion right up here. So those are the areas that are accessed by passenger vehicles.
I guess, we're at 11.
All right, so 11. So to review the specific types of uses that are proposed with this application. So out of the uses listed, equipment rentals, topsoil, mulch, sand, stone sales, dumpster rentals, concrete block paver sales, winter supplies, masonry material sales, and retail sales. So dumpster rentals are not occurring at this site. While this is a business that the applicant owns and advertises for, he does not do dumpster rentals on this property. All other uses listed, we believe, are part of the landscaping yard use. And I know our planner was going to address that in a little bit more detail. But we are basically asking to be allowed to do A through G except C on this site as part of the site plan approval.
What do you do with your waste now? Without a dumpster? I mean, you must have things that are wrapped.
Oh, there is a dumpster enclosure and there is trash pickup on the site
You
for the
do
site
provide
itself.
for that, okay.
Yes, yeah, no, we're just like, the applicant is not providing dumpster rentals for other people on this site.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just if I might, are there any other uses that are proposed that are not included in this list?
I think this pretty well covers it.
Okay, just want to make sure on the record that way. Yeah.
Basically, the applicant will continue their current operation, but reconfigure the site to provide more buffer to the residents to the south and to come into compliance with prior resolutions and letters from you and other officials.
As an example, the original approval did not permit retail. So retail is now proposed, that's a use that's proposed. So just want to make sure that what's listed here is everything that the applicant is intending to do, nothing beyond that.
Well, I'll review it further with my client, but at this point, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
except the dumpster rentals. The
Understood.
client
We're gonna
does
take that
have a
off.
business, but
Understood.
he doesn't operate it from this site.
Just sales. The dumpsters would be just rentals and sales.
Just his dumpster for the trash disposal on site,
And
not for rent to others.
in the retail part of his store, is he gonna rent his dumpsters out? and
No.
make-
No, that's the
Not gonna
exact
do
opposite.
Anything about the dumpsters?
Nothing,
The dumpsters that are on site will be for his own use for disposal of on-site waste generation.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking is, he has a dumpster business
Yes,
and he does it somewhere else.
yes.
Is he going to sell or rent dumpsters out of his retail space on this property? That's all.
He may take a phone call or two there,
No,
yes.
phone call's not gonna hurt anybody.
Well, but there will not be,
Dumpster
dumpsters will
store.
not be
Yeah.
brought in or taken away from this site, other than his own trash. Put that aside, right?
All right.
Okay, that's run as an independent business, but if he's on the, he can pick up the cell phone, it could be at the office, it could be any number of places that people would call,
I understand.
and he can, okay.
I'm not opposed to him renting or selling out of there, just that he leaves them where they're at.
The answer to that is yes.
We just clarify the dumpster locations. There's a pad in the corner of the property. That's basically your refuse area. Are you saying that there are going to be dumpsters on the site used by the owner for disposal at other locations?
yes, and currently, there's other material stored in that pad, so that would be cleaned up so that this enclosure would be utilized for recyclables and refuse. And that enclosure can be brought to compliance as need be in accordance with the ordinance.
So there are no other dumpster locations on the site other than that corner?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Also then, since we're talking about the business operation, to talk about the hours. So being that it's a landscape yard, the winter season is not as busy. So what we're asking for is for the winter hours to be Monday through Friday, 7 to 4, and not open on the weekends. Now,
There has to
salt
be an
is also,
exception for
right,
snow.
so the exception is for when there is snow or bad weather forecast, because they do sell salt. And I believe they also supply the Board of Ed as well, so we are asking to be open as needed during bad weather for rock salt. For summer hours, Monday through Friday, it would be 7 to 5, and on Saturdays, 8 to 2.
8 to what?
2.
Two.
And typically there are 3 to 4 employees on site.
The location where the salt is stored.
Mhm.
I know you don't show that on the plan. I think currently it's closer to the Merritt Avenue area. Is that still intended with this proposal?
I don't know that for sure, would have to ask.
Well, I think we can say is it is not going to be on the southerly side. There's proposal for 2 or 3 bins,
2 bins.
2 bins along the southerly side, and that is intended to be less,
Frequent,
what is it?
like less frequent pickup,
Less
I guess,
frequent
something
use
that's
there.
maybe not as heavily.
And the salt during the season would be very busy for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Unless, of course, the weather keeps getting warm like it is now. But in any event, that could be, I guess we would agree, Mr. Cornell, to put it towards the northerly side.
That the concern is that salt is you're saying could be after hours. And if that's close to the residential, that's an inconvenience for the residents in that area. So if it's possible to have the salt at a location as far away from the residential properties as
So why
possible.
don't- If, I would say then.
We would
dedicate
agree to
2
that.
or 3 northerly most
Most
bins
northerly bins.
for use as, for the salt during the season, of course.
Should we move on to the sanitary sewer system? So there is an existing sanitary sewer easement on the site. And there were some bins located over it. The applicant will be removing those bins.
We just wanted to get on the record that there's no proposal for any structures over that easement. Thank you.
Correct. The water system design report, you're asking us to update it once we know the fire flows for the sprinkler system. We will do that as we do resolution compliance and perfect the approval. We would submit that water demand.
Mr. Chairman, that's typically something the board requires as a condition, so it's not a problem to make that a future condition.
Moving on to the stormwater drainage system. As you know, Mr. Cornell, this project is a major development, and a new stormwater management system has been designed for it. Back in 2001, a stormwater management basin was designed for this project, but it was only designed to handle a certain amount of impervious and gravel that was, well, actually not gravel, not as much gravel as there is today. So as part of this new plan, we are proposing to add another underground stormwater management system, an infiltration system that would capture that increase and manage that in order to meet the required reductions. The second system, the new system, would discharge at the same location as the existing system, which is to the farm field.
Let me take another shuffle over to the board and
Sure.
demonstrate that.
So what I'm showing is that the new building would be tied in to the system, and there would be also inlets placed in order to capture that runoff and detain the water in this infiltration system and then discharge it over here where the existing discharge is. We are also proposing an upflow filter, which will provide 80% total suspended solids removal, which is acting as a pre-treatment before the runoff gets recharged.
Mr. Chairman, for the information of the board, we went back and forth with the applicant engineer a number of times on the design of the stormwater system during the technical review process. The majority of the items have been addressed. I think 3 and 4 just have to do with the maintenance plan. So I think that could be a condition if you could address those in the future.
Right, thank you. And we typically like to prepare the operation and maintenance manual after we are sure that CME is satisfied with the design, and then we would go ahead and prepare the manual.
Let me ask
So-
you a question. If the design fails, what's your plan? Say you don't write the plan, the maintenance plan, you get a big storm, both systems don't handle it, maybe you need a third. Come back to here to get it, or you just put it in on your own?
Well, so what we're designing for is the 100-year storm,
Becoming frequent.
which will be coming, but then remember, the 100-year storm is not once every 100 years. It's the chance of 1% chance of occurring in any given year. So it meets the design requirements. Should there be a lack of maintenance or something like that, in which case, then the town would be able to come in and then back charge the owner for the maintenance of the system.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, before construction, the applicant will have to submit that information to our office for review and approval. So that's something that will be addressed prior to any construction beginning.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I may ask, being new, I do apologize, but does the board typically require easements for these type of drainage or not?
Not for something that's
Okay.
going to be privately maintained.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Landscaping and lighting?
Landscaping and lighting, so.
If I might, just if you go back to D5 to address that, that's an ongoing
yes.
drainage issue.
So that is something I would like to talk to in a little bit more detail, because based on my review of the plan, of the prior plan that your office sent to me, I thought that plan was directing the drainage to lot 32 originally, but yes, I agree that there was some regrading in the area, which we can either regrade now before we do the planting, but I would rather not be removing any trees that already exist on lot 2.01. So if that's something that the board is amenable to, I would like to work that grading out with you for resolution compliance.
For the board's information, that there are some residential properties that are being flooded as a result of some grading work done on this property. So the intention here is to get the drainage away from that property to prevent the flooding from happening. So if the applicant's agreeable, if we can work something out in the future to redirect the water away from that property, I think that'll solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Landscape and lighting, so we have prepared a tree preservation plan and calculations Based on that, there is a deficit of 41 trees, so a contribution to the borough is required, which the applicant will comply with. I have looked at the calculations to verify that at least 20% of the subject site would consist of landscaping, where we originally thought that we wouldn't meet that requirement. Based on our calculations, we do meet it. We would actually have about 25% of the area landscaped. And as far as landscaping along the right-of-way, depends on how deep we can count the right-of-way. I have a calculation, and I'm just wondering, how does the town, how deep can one go behind the right-of-way line to count the landscaping? And this is specifically a question to this strip along lot 2.01, because that will be all landscaped.
That's part of your property, so that could be included in the calculation.
Is there a limit to the depth or no?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so then we would comply with the 5% as well. Any existing dead trees should be removed and replaced. We will comply with that. Item 4, in accordance with the borough ordinance, a minimum 10% of parking area shall be landscaped about the interior. We are asking for that waiver because our proposed parking area is located between the two buildings, so we believe that that provides sufficient screening and buffering.
You mean the two buildings?
Yes. Item 5, the 50-foot wide vegetated buffer when a commercial property abuts a residential zone. So we have, maybe actually if you could pull up sheet 7. So this is the buffering that I was talking about along the southerly line, and also the fact that we're now pulling the bins back so that there would be 55 to the 50-foot distance from the property line to the bins, and all of this southerly line would be landscaped up to the bins. So we believe that we comply with that ordinance requirement. There is still a 25-foot buffer to the westerly side, which is a farmland preserved farm field, I believe. So we believe that that is sufficient.
Behind this site is farmland preserve. I checked the deed.
That 25-foot buffer was granted with the original approval, but that was for 3 bins. Now there's 12 bins that are proposed within that 25-foot buffer area.
Right, and that's where we're also asking for a waiver for that, being that, or a variance, I guess, that it's an active farm and that there's no residential uses physically occurring in that location.
We have a later comment about possibly because you're intensifying the amount of bins in that area, and it is visible from the residential properties, you may want to go through and look to increase the buffering in that area.
Well, I think we could certainly plant more trees in that, along that berm.
Okay, I think the planner has some issues with that as well, so we can maybe talk about that more.
Okay. The height of any display materials, equipment to be clarified. So usually I believe there's like about 4 pallets high that are being stacked.
Mr. Chairman, you have material storage stacked 4 pallets high in the front yard visible from Route 35. So they're looking for a number of waivers associated with that. So it's really up to the board whether you want to allow that, or do you want to try to dress up the site? Do you want to go through it and, limit the height of any pallets, any storage? Do you want to have additional screening of that so it's not as visible from 35? Those are the type of waivers that the applicant's asking for. So it's really up to the board to determine if that's sufficient, or if you want to try to dress up the site in conjunction with this application.
Well, in that regard, I would like to consider part of a retail business does expose yourself to the traveling public on a state highway, and it is a commercial zone. I think that part of the idea to make it a successful business, a continuous successful business, would to keep some visibility. That's the reason that Ms. Barone has planted the southern boundary so heavily. So we would like to be able to have it visible to the travelers on Route 35 to see the products. As any business, I think, would want.
Mr. Chairman, 4 pallets high would be,
It's about 8 feet, I believe.
each pallet stone like, it's like 2 feet.
You shouldn't need 4 pallets. That doesn't-
Well, they were stacked. They were, yeah, it was not, it was like bags of stone, and then it's also pallets of pavers. So,
There's material on it.
There's material,
Same thing, 4 pallets this high.
no,
It
no,
wasn't
with the
4 pallets, it was
materials.
Four tiers of product.
Material.
I thought maybe there was
Or
some
maybe
that
it's-
was
maybe
more
it's-
than 2 feet high. Paper stone. I was thinking like 16 feet high, you're saying.
Yeah, maybe, no, I don't know if it's 8 feet. It's hard for me to tell what it is. But it depends on the material.
Existing material varies. from three to
Right.
4 pallets high, I think probably 8 or 12. I don't know about it.
I do think we also have to, I don't think we have an objection with, trying to put a product out for display. But it shouldn't be spaced out in an aesthetically pleasing way. I don't necessarily think we've met the standard yet, we should address it.
Well, I think that's what this plan is intending to do, is to move it. It is an outdoor product business, of course, and I understand your point and would agree with it. And I think that's what the client is trying to do, but a screen along the front of Highway 35 to block view would be counterproductive to a retail business. On the other hand, organization, which is being proposed here, some of the features that would make it more attractive, it's still, they're selling landscape products. So it isn't like a furniture store that can be, that people go in and kind of look around, you kind of go and get your stuff and get to work. In the meantime, the idea is to make it much more attractive and to clean up the visibility from the highway, but to make it useful. Now, expanding the southern boundary and buffer from the 25 feet that was granted on the last variance to 50 pushes that a little tighter. Pushes that a little tighter, and that pushes the activity more towards the north, which is what we want to do to keep that 50 feet. So we do need to have a view and a display. That doesn't mean it has to be ugly, but it also doesn't have to be a screen of planning. We'd like to get some visibility to the public. So I think some balance in there is what
I think we should set a limit.
this plan proposes, and that's why we went that route.
We do the same thing with this company down here called Dufon. There's a height to the storage that they have for supplies. It's the same type of business, you know, they're commercial resident, you know. But they don't go 12 and 14 feet high, you know.
Well, these products are heavy. If they're 14 feet high, you better have a forklift from them.
We just don't want to see,
But that, we're not asking for that.
see a 14-foot storage area coming off the highway.
I don't know that you have a height limit. Yeah, you, as was indicated, you have set height limits before. I think on the particular application, you had maybe a 6 or 8 foot high fence, and the intention was to have that fence hide the material behind it. Here, the applicant's asking for visibility, but there's no really, no screening at all. You've got a chain link fence that you're looking into the entire site. So if you may want to supplement this with some low growing landscaping to kind of take away from the fact that you've got stockpiles of higher material behind it. So I think,
that's would help make it more attractive and still let it function.
and you also may want to put a restriction on the height as well, just so you don't have, 20-foot high stockpiles of pallets there.
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing in the ordinance that restricts the height, of the fact that they're asking for a variance with display, or can put something in place that would be reasonable for the residents.
Thank you. Okay, so then we talked about the need to provide additional screening of the additional storage bins for the westerly property line. So again, we were thinking that maybe screening is not needed, but if that's what the board desires, we would certainly comply.
Seven.
7, to verify all areas which additional landscaping and installed to have existing gravel removed. We will add that note on the plan to remove the gravel.
You speaking about the note on number 8?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Number 1, so anticipated traffic patterns, deliveries, garbage pickup.
well, Lena, excuse me one second, but to help the board, the section G, parking and road improvements, it starts over, that's number 1 under G. That's what you're up to now.
So just then to discuss, obviously the passenger vehicles will be parking in that new parking lot. We did talk about the deliveries to the rear, that would be, the trucks would be utilizing existing traffic patterns that they do right now. And obviously the frequency of trucks depends on the weather and the season as well. So with the summer being a more busy season, spring and summer, as opposed to winter.
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the other concern was the number of vehicles on the site. How many existing vehicles does the owner have? Where are they going to be parked? It's not really shown. You have a parking area and then basically wide open areas in the back. Are there X number of dump trucks that this owner has? Where will they be parked? Are there X number of forklifts? Are they going to be kept inside the building? I just,
Front-end loaders.
yeah, I think we want to try to get a better idea of where things are going to go on the site, just to make sure that all the dump trucks, if they're parked in the back, you're still going to be able to get your deliveries, that type of thing.
I didn't prepare for that question, so we'll have to discuss that with the client.
And also, are there any rental equipment present on the site? Any vehicles for rent? Nothing. Okay, thank you.
No, it's the vehicles, like, maybe I misheard.
There is equipment for rent.
Equipment, yeah. Equipment, yes, but Mr. Cornell, I thought you said.
I asked for vehicles. I think you did have equipment rentals was on the prior section that talked about that you were going to have equipment rentals. But I think we want to get an idea of where that's going to be.
Well, that would be in the front here, as well as in the rear over here.
Okay, whenever we've talked about parking, we've also included customer parking. Are there provisions for customer parking designated spots or no?
Yes.
Or is it gonna be like willy-nilly?
Yes, that would be up here between the two buildings. And also there's some parking on the rear of the current,
Handicap?
yes, one handicap.
So it'll be designated for
Yes.
customers. They're not just open parking spots that anybody can pull into.
They're striped and marked.
They'll be marked for customers.
Yeah, I think part of concern with the front yard storage area is what is going to be visible from the roadway. Maybe what you can do, instead of having one big hatched area, maybe you can kind of say that this quadrant is going to be used for
Okay.
block storage. The vehicles are going to be parked farther away from the roadway, so they're not going to be right up against the highway. Maybe you can better distinguish what the storage areas are going to be used for.
Okay. So I think we talked about the deliveries and the refuse pickup. So as I said, the refuse and recyclables will be stored in the enclosure that's there, which can also be upgraded if needed. Number 3, any required signage and striping for fire zones that your borough fire official requests, we will comply with.
Excuse me. Can you go back to the refuse pickup? Will there be times that the guy will be there to pick up? Will the times be limited for the refuse pickup or will it be any time during the day? When does he come? Yeah, that's all day.
During business hours, typically they come. I mean, it's up to them really on the schedule.
Really, he could come in while customers are there.
It's not.
Yes, we've designated hours, you know.
I think the concern is a lot of times when you're near residential properties is having a truck come in
7 o'clock
early in the morning or late in the evening. So if it's during business hours, I think that's less of a concern.
Right. It's during business hours, and it is also located on the northerly side of the property. So the existing driveway does not provide for the 10-foot setback to the property line as required. This is an existing nonconformity that we're looking to continue. We are also asking for a waiver from providing hairpin striping for the new parking spaces. The reason being that the existing parking spaces do not have hairpin striping. So we just want to match the existing condition.
Your comments?
I think that's it for engineering.
Mr. Chairman, you want us to review Mr. Fowler's letter now?
Did you do toward the 10-foot setback? What do we-
Mr. Chairman, that's an existing condition. That
That's an
waiver was
existing-
granted
That
with
was
the
granted
prior
the last
approval,
time.
and that's not going to be modified with this application.
We can do that. Mr. Fowler, you ready?
Yes.
I thought I'm off the hook.
So primarily will be responded to by our planner. But, Mr. Fowler, are there any, like, I think Lena addressed most of your comments. If not, I think she's got all of the comments to address engineering, but in this setting, we could do that now.
If you run through general comments E, there's something you already addressed on the Cornell report, then you say that.
Let me-
Otherwise, you have it, if you can go through that.
Well, one is discussion, general operating conditions, staffing, et cetera. I think we presented that. Vertical circulation with regard to the trucks, that was identified. Directional arrows added to the ends of the main driveway.
We will add that.
Just backing up to number 2, where you went through the route the trucks would travel when they come onto the site, exit the site, just something should be, I know it's gravel and pavement mixed, but something should be designated on the plan to show that that area will not contain any of the applicant's vehicles, or there'll be no storage in those areas are all, would be free and clear. The truck comes on site, that it can make those maneuvers. I know you can't put it into the
Well, I didn't
into
see
the
anything.
ground, but just designate that area as an area that will remain clear, to show the area, like following delivery route or something on the plans, we know that area is not going to have any materials stored there at any time or trucks parked there.
I want to go back to a business can't keep their vehicles on their business?
If it's a travel lane that will be designated for a
Fire
delivery
safety?
or fire safety, then it should remain clear, so that particular
No,
area.
no,
should
no,
remain
we understand
clear.
that, and there's no intention to clog up the driveway or to
Right, so
impede
that-
fire, but I thought, maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said that our client couldn't have his vehicles on the site.
No, not in the travel area
Oh.
or.
That we're using for
Fire lane.
maneuvering.
We agreed that, we would have,
Sorry,
I thought that's what we were already involved with, but the answer is
So
of
just
course.
designate that on the plan.
Okay.
It's not just
Yes.
saying-
I I didn't hear you
I didn't
properly.
make it very clear.
Ears don't work too well anymore.
So number 3, we will add the directional arrows. Number 4, that's what we just talked about too. Number 5, all surfaces clearly identified. I could show like a color rendering or something to submit that so it's visible what the distinction is between gravel versus pavement versus
that
grass.
What you would have in mind?
Yeah, any kind of shading or so I can tell where
Yep.
gravel areas are and where there's pavement.
Okay,
Number 6 was a request for street trees, which we will provide in the right of way. Exclusive of the jug handle, as you suggest, so it will be only along that straight strip. Number 7, landscape design to comply with the requirements.
I believe you covered that in the.
Yep.
Number 8, we talked about the 50-foot buffer extensively. I believe that we comply with that requirement.
And again, also on Mr. Cornell's report, it just says a variance was received in 2001 to allow reduction of the buffer with 25 feet along the western property line. The current plan, a fixed 50-foot buffer on the southern side, 25 foot on Merritt Avenue. And as we had said, the original plan that allowed 25 feet had buffer on the western side had 3 bins. Now you have 12. So Mr. Cornell had recommended I have Mark for the supplement that buffer, make it.
Well, I'd ask you to
sense.
consider that this is it's an active farm
Today,
today, preserved. So if they haven't used their one house yet, they could build one house on, I don't know, 27 acres. It's a farm. You really want a screen between the farm?
it's
and
already
the-
screened, they're just asking that it be supplemented where it's not very dense at this point. Just supplement that buffer along with that course of the top.
And I'd say maybe we can work with Miss Spiro, I'm assuming from your office, and meet her and work out the buffering.
Our office and Mr. Fowler as well. yes.
Okay. We just addressed that.
You did that? Irrigation?
Irrigation, so we're only proposing irrigation during the period that the plants are being established. Otherwise, no irrigation is proposed.
Item 10 asks for house side shields.
So this is really applicable to residential areas, as you state. Our lighting, we're only proposing 2 wall-mounted light fixtures that are far from the residential areas. So there will be no light spillage based on our design.
So there's no lighting at all on the southern 2/3 of the site.
That's correct. There's no lighting there. We're not proposing any. And in fact, we wouldn't even need it because the business shuts down during evening hours.
How would they illuminate each school?
Well, that will be on the north bin. So,
With lighting, how would the lighting work out?
not sure what he does today. I mean, how would the lighting work for the salt bin?
For the salt?
Yeah.
Well, I need it.
Like,
I mean.
but you're not.
if they're loading the truck-
Where's it gonna go? Where are you not
If they're
proposing?
loading the truck at night, they'd probably have to, they'd probably turn the lights on to make it a safe load, you know. But it would only be for any time of loading,
Just from the vehicles that we're actually moving.
probably to the vehicles to deliver.
Even if speaking to the microphone, we cannot hear.
Thank you. All right, Lena, you have an architect to address the building,
Same for
Height.
12. I think he will
11 and
explain
12.
it.
13, relative to sustainability, solar panels are encouraged but not required. Our client does not have a plan to add solar panels at this time. The rooftop is not very big, won't generate much electricity.
EV charging, we don't believe is required because we have less than 25 spaces. However, there is actually currently a level 2 charger out there. So we are providing one.
Fence or wall. This is the issue we've discussed significantly, 15, about requesting that there be open to the highway for visibility. There was a comment to put some low shrubbery to make it more aesthetically pleasing, and we've agreed on behalf of our client. The buffering along the southerly side is shown on the plan, and there was a request to enhance the buffering along the westerly side to the farm.
I think Mr. Cornell had already covered the fact that you're
think so.
actually just, it's not gonna be a three per wall, the storage area in the front, you're gonna designate where you're gonna have equipment stored, where you're gonna have materials stored. Right, lots of landscape businesses where they're selling stone, do a nice display up front, so people see that from the roadway, it brings them in, and it looks more attractive, becomes a slight feature, also something that helps to sell product. So if you did something like that, and would show an area where that would be, then.
I think, yes. Lena, you already agreed to show that.
Show
on
that on the
the
plan, yes.
So Mike, or Mr. Fowler, we agree with that.
Yes, thank you.
So item 16 regarding the signs, we are proposing a sign that conforms with the zoning requirements. As far as any signs that are placed on fences or anywhere else, that would have to be removed.
There are any, I don't know.
Number 17, existing refuse area, you had asked for that to be updated in accordance with the borough requirements, which we agreed to. Fire prevention and Division of Traffic Safety, we will seek their approval.
We agree that outside agency is applying, Mr. Fowler, and I'm not sure this generates any affordable housing under your ordinance. And we will present architectural and planning testimony with our next two witnesses to present a justification for the variances in accordance with the municipal land use law.
I have no other questions.
Lena, any other information that we have for the board about this site?
No, I think that summarizes, we're seeking to legalize everything and to comply with the ordinance and resolve the issues, particularly along the southerly boundary, and provide the required buffering and screening and seize the operation there.
Yeah, our client has, worked hard to develop the business, and he understands that he's got to reel it in a little bit to get in accordance with the ordinances. That's why we're here asking for a modification to the way it was approved, and now the way to set it up to make it operate effectively for the business purpose, but also to meet reasonably meet the municipal standards as much as possible. Also, with this buffering, we do believe that the most affected persons could be the southerly residents, and expansion to 50 feet in the buffering is designed to limit the impact to them from the site. But that is a residential property next to a commercial zone. And while it could be limited, I don't know that it can be eliminated.
Do you have any other people you want to bring up?
I do. Are there any other questions for Ms. Barone?
Anybody else have any questions of her?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I would like to call Kurt Ludwig, our architect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Mr. Chairman, Kurt's going to need a minute to set up his boards because he came with boards instead of electronics.
Is this okay over here?
Yeah, as long as everybody can see it.
Yes.
Kurt,
Oh, thank you.
and I'll speak into this mic.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm introducing Kurt Ludwig.
If I may first, Mr. Chairman, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt, would you describe to the board your licensing, your education, and
Sure.
training?
I graduated from Arizona State University with my degree in architecture in 1987. In 1991, I opened up my practice at 77 North Main Street in Milltown, New Jersey. I'm still there. I'm a registered architect in New Jersey, New York, and South Carolina. I've testified in front of numerous boards throughout the state. I've been working in this town for 30-something years, but I've never testified here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to offer that Mr. Ludwig is an expert in the field of architecture.
Need a motion to accept his credentials?
Chairman, I make a motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Kurt, so could you describe to the board the proposal for the removal of the residence and the
Sure.
replacement of it with the pole barn?
Sure. Do I need to mark these boards?
Yes.
Okay. A1?
I don't know.
Okay, thanks. So this board basically has a site key plan. As Lena had mentioned, we're proposing a 45-foot by 50-foot building. It's going to be a pole barn type structure with a gable roof. Access to the building will be on the left side of the drawing here, facing the parking lot will be an overhead door and a man door. And I'd like to go to the next board and come back to this page if need be. The next sheet,
When you mark this A2, please.
which is going to be A2.
And just for the record, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you just identify what the exhibit is? You know, not just identify, so for the record knows A1 is.
A site key plan.
Okay.
And A2 is a floor plan. So this is our floor plan. Again, it's a 45-foot by 50-foot building. It will have a gable-style roof, slab on grade construction. Our doors, as I mentioned, will be facing the new parking area. We'll have one overhead door here and a man door here. There will be windows on all four sides of the building. Inside the building will be a two-piece bathroom in this upper left-hand corner. And to go to the last sheet, which I'll label A3, which is a drawing with 4 exterior elevations. Again, we have our pole barn building. This view here faces the parking area where we have our overhead door, our man door, windows on all 4 sides of the building. We took the color scheme of the existing adjacent building and matched that. We'll have the vertical siding and the stone base on all 4 sides of the building. And that,
Describe the actual colors. What color is the roof shingles, the roof going to be, and so forth?
so the siding is a metal, gray metal. The stone veneer, this is the same, very similar to the building that's adjacent. And then the roofing will match the adjacent building.
So this building is in the same color scheme as the existing building?
Correct.
It's kind of simple, but that's.
Anybody have any questions of the architect?
There was another architectural question that came over, I think, but I don't remember which one it was, Mike, Mr. Fowler. I think we left one for Kurt. Maximum height. Item 11 in Mr. Fowler's report.
So we're proposing, I need glasses, 18 feet, 4 inches.
And is there any proposed facade signs?
No,
Any proposed building mounted lighting?
only the lighting that's on Lena's site plan, 2 light fixtures.
Item 12 was the groups of buildings should have a harmonious relationship. The testimony is it's the same colors and style. Commercial business, 2 million, maintain a consistent design theme. In your opinion, as an architect, when you designed this, did you design it with a consistent design theme throughout the development?
Yes,
And the renderings we proposed and a rendering of the proposed freestanding sign. Did you prepare a rendering for a sign?
no, that's actually on the site plan, the detail.
So that's, any other architectural information?
No, I just want to mention again, we matched the gable style roof of the existing adjacent building and we matched the color scheme and the material.
So it's
so that it
similar
would blend.
style, same type of roof, similar colors, or the same colors,
Yes.
actually? Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other direct questions from Kurt. Kurt, thank you.
Thank you.
Thumb up.
No, I want to bring my planner up to justify the variances, if I may. Andrew Janu. Sure. Thank you. Much more.
Just gonna put up an aerial exhibit. I have, actually reduced copies for the board, a second. I
Okay.
think that, tells the story of the property.
Mr. Chairman, this is Andrew Janu, a licensed professional planner. I'd ask that he be sworn.
And do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Andrew, would you want to use this one?
Sure.
Would you provide the board with your credentials?
Certainly. My name is Andrew Janu. I am a licensed professional planner and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I'm currently serving as the planner for the Borough of Carteret, have for the last 20 years. I'm the planner for the Borough of Freehold as well. I've been appointed by Governor Murphy to the State Board of Professional Planners, and I've testified throughout the state as an expert in land use.
I offer Mr. Janu as a planner.
Anybody that wants to accept his credentials?
Chairman, I'd like to accept his credentials.
Like, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Andrew, we asked you to take a look at this and to address the overall design and the variances.
Certainly. From a planning testimony standpoint, this is actually a fairly simple application. This property is in the B3 zone. It's a highway business district that permits car washes, automobile repairs, automotive services, bars, childcare centers, essential services, a wide variety of commercial applications. This has been deemed as a permitted use, and outdoor storage is also a permitted accessory use, albeit we're seeking the storage in the front yard. This evening, as was reiterated earlier, we are seeking storage within a front yard where the same is not allowed. We are providing a front yard setback of 21.6 where 25 is permitted. That's an existing condition that was approved in the prior resolution for the prior owner. And we are modifying the buffer to 50 feet along the southerly property line adjacent to the residential structures where 25 feet was previously permitted. We're also seeking design waivers that were stated, but that includes providing a minimum 10% of surface parking facility to be landscaped, a waiver from providing hairpin striping, and that's to match existing conditions, a waiver from providing all parking lots and all loading areas with concrete or Belgian block curbing. The parking between the two buildings will be curbed. A waiver from providing sidewalk throughout the site and along the frontage of the property. I believe that was discussed. A waiver from surfacing all off-street parking areas, interior driveways, and loading, unloading areas with bituminous concrete pavement. Again, that was discussed, and the southerly portion of the property will be done in pea gravel, which is the area where a lot of the activity of loading and unloading within the bins will take place. And finally, a waiver from providing a dedicated off-street loading berth for the new pole barn, which I also believe was discussed. But going on to what the variance relief entails in preparation for this evening, I've reviewed your ordinances, your master plan, reviewed the review letters from Mr. Fowler and Mr. Cornell. I reviewed the history of this property as well as the prior approval and the actions that were taken subsequent to that. And I'm here to offer an opinion as to the variance relief. As this board knows, a variance cannot be granted for the sole benefit of an applicant. There has to be a public purpose. And we go to the municipal land use law, which talks about that, but we have to have a foundation within your master plan, as well as discuss what other benefits are entailed with this application. First and foremost, I think this application seeks to reorganize the site to something that's more attractive, as well as to eliminate a non-conforming use, which is the single-family home that's on the property today. That will be eliminated and replaced with a conforming commercial use, which is what's envisioned within the B3 district. With respect to the general policies of your master plan, those include, and I'll quote from the master plan, the creation of a viable commercial community entity should be maintained and desirable business growth encouraged consistent with the social and aesthetic policies. It is necessary to maintain a stable tax and employment base while facilitating the borough's strategic location in Middlesex County and the state. Goals and objectives include continuing the encouragement of aesthetic and site improvements to the borough's major commercial and industrial areas, and encouraging the maintenance of existing business community and providing for desirable development. With respect to the B3, the master plan specifically identifies it as an area located adjacent to portions of Route 35 and Route 9 and the Garden State Parkway, providing for larger scale, comprehensively planned commercial development on lots that are 20,000 square feet or greater in area. This lot is just shy of 2 acres. So it's on point with all those objectives in your master plan, the description of the master plan. And what we're seeking tonight is to reorganize this property, to make it more attractive, to make it more functional for the ownership, to bring it into closer compliance with what your master plan and your ordinances envisioned for the area. With respect to the public purposes, those are typically identified within the MLUL under 4055D, and I believe there are 2 purposes that we foster with this application. The first is to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. This application will buffer the residential properties to the south. It'll be an enhanced buffer of 50 feet. We've discussed additional points of organization and beautification that we can address, including supplemental landscaping and buffering along the westerly property line and designating the front yard storage that we're seeking into an organized area where we'll identify what will go where and how it'll go, as well as providing some low-scale landscaping in that area to beautify that. It is an unusually shaped property at a jug handle that creates significant challenges in terms of creating storage. It has a tremendous amount of front yard area because of that jug handle. And that really does, as you can see, take a bite into the property. So what we are seeking is to create that storage in the front yard towards the highway frontage, which is, I think, a better alternative than putting it towards the residential or the farm use, which is a little more bucolic, a little more calm, if you will. And finally, the coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with a view of lessening the cost of such development into the more efficient use of land. Again, this is an existing facility. There have been issues over the years which we're seeking to resolve and to rectify with this application. It will bring it into conformance in terms of all the uses. We are seeking the variance for outdoor storage. I mentioned before, outdoor storage is permitted in the district. We're seeking it in the front yard where it is discouraged by the ordinance, but it's practical location for this application because of the location and the adjacent property uses. While it's a highway commercial and a busy highway commercial district, it does abut a residential district, and that's where we're providing the buffering and the screening that makes sense. So when we're looking at the type of bulk variance relief that we're seeking, it's known as a C variance. And in this case, there are two types of C variances. There's the C1, which is the hardship variance, or the C2, which is the typically the balance test variance, meaning that the benefit of the variance outweighs any detriments. With respect to this application, I would qualify this under the C2 criteria. The C2 criteria has 5 prongs to its test. The first is that in the positive criteria, the first is that the application relates to a specific piece of property, and it does. That the purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced by a deviation, and I believe they would. I read 2 purposes of the MLUL, which I believe would be advanced by this. And I also think, as the treatise of Cox comments always, bringing a property into closer conformity is always a benefit to the public, and that's what we're doing. We're eliminating a non-conforming use. We're fixing some issues, excuse me. We're rectifying the buffer to the south, to the adjacent properties, so that has a series of benefits to it as well. And finally, that the benefits of the deviation outweigh any detriment. Again, the benefits of this are to organize the property. You'll have a plan that organizes the property, designates the types of storage and where they'll be located. It will create additional drainage relief on the property that Mr. Cornell will review and make sure that we don't have any issues. It's regrading the property to avoid any of the flooding issues that were discussed earlier. So I do think when we talk about this, we are creating benefits that are substantial to the neighborhood and will still function in terms of what the zone plan envisions for this property. The 2 prongs of the negative criteria are: 1, that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and the term in the MLUL is substantial detriment. I don't believe there's any substantial detriment. When we look at the detriments, we typically look at what kind of nuisances would this application create. By organizing the storage to the front yard, which is really the relief we're looking for, we are taking it further away from the the less compatible uses of residential and farming, bringing that to the highway frontage. It does have retail sales. You encourage commercial activity within this area. We will have that organized. You will have some control over the organization of that in this approval process. So I think when we look at how we're factoring the nuisances, we're improving the property. We're improving the drainage. We're improving the circulation on the property. We're improving the organization of the property. We're bringing in conforming uses. So those are all things that are a benefit and not a detriment. And finally, that the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. It doesn't, quite frankly. This is a commercial district. It has a commercial use. It'll be a better organized commercial use. It'll be a more attractive commercial use. It will foster job growth. And as was mentioned, this facility is even utilized by Sayreville residents to an extent in that the salt is stored on this site and utilized by your Board of Education in times of storms and winter activity. So it is not detrimental to the zone plan. It's not detrimental to the ordinance. When we look at this on balance, I think this board can grant these. The waivers all make sense in terms of how the property operates and will be configured. And I think it's a good application with respect to the planning aspects.
That's all I
I
have.
have no other direct question.
Anybody have any questions of the planner?
Mr. Chairman, just for record-keeping purposes, are we just going to mark this as Exhibit A, A4? Just since you have presented to the board, might as well mark it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Andy, we can mark it.
I'll date it today.
Thank you.
Now, do you want to keep the big one or you want to keep one of the small
I'll
ones?
just keep the small one.
Oh, okay. Would you mark it A4, please?
Planner has a question?
Oh. It could be closer.
Open your.
Just more a matter of housekeeping, and I think I mentioned this in my report, and maybe it's something for the attorneys, also possibly for the planner, but in the 2001 approval, in the one section of the resolution, it states that the applicant is requesting a front yard variance as it relates to the existing garage in relationship to the jug handle, 50 feet required, 21.4 feet proposed. And then at the rear of the resolution, it says a variance from the front yard setback requirement is relates to existing frame garage, 25 feet required, 21.4 feet proposed. So the requirement is 50 feet. I'm not sure why it varied from place to place within the resolution, but
I don't know. The southerly side, is 25 feet. We're moving that because the neighbors.
no,
have been
this is
complaining.
the front yard setback, front yard
Right,
setback
front
we're
yard.
talking about.
Yeah.
Not the 25-foot buffer, but the resolution back in 2001 states 50 feet required, 21 feet proposed, and then the back where it's mentions it again, it says 25 feet required, 21 proposed.
Well,
And
we want to be, we'd like the variance to permit the building in its existing
yeah,
location.
but again, I want that clarified on the notes on the front sheet, where it says 21 feet in
okay.
one section and 50 feet in another. And then it's also the building that was proposed at that time is also 25 feet from the jug handle, but this did not mention the variance. So again, for housekeeping purposes, just wanted to make sure that it was stated that a 50-foot variance is 25-foot setback exists for the existing building, the large building, 50 feet's required, and that's being addressed. Again, it wasn't mentioned in the resolution back in 2001.
Okay, thank you. We don't want to create any additional issues, so if that's the case, it should be.
You just, so
make
it's
sure
mentioned in the resolution and it's
properly
clarified.
and-
Yeah, we'll clarify that in
I
the
think we
memorializing
understand it.
resolution if the application is
Perfect sense.
approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other question?
Yeah, we're done.
Thank you very much.
Public,
I'll take a motion.
take a motion to open to public.
Motion open the public?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
When you come up, please state your name and where you live. And speak into the mic. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. I've been living there 46 years, way before all of this, as I've been around. I just want to try to paint a small picture. I'm not a good artist, so bear with me. I appreciate it very much. I want to first thank my neighbors that came tonight. This is very important to us and our quality of life living there. Number one, it seems very odd that tonight they want to be in compliance. For 4 years, we lived with it. He had 19 bins there. And it was a nightmare. So when my fellow neighbors come up here and tell you about noise, tell you about trucks, tell you about 2 a.m. We lived it. They don't tell you that part. I have a lot of questions for the professionals, if you don't mind if I can ask them.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Our professionals or theirs?
I guess I want to know the height of the bins. Does anybody know the height of the bins? No. No. They don't know the height of the bins. How much material goes in a bin? How many yards? They don't know that either.
Is any of this material from the bins blowing onto your property or onto Merritt Avenue?
Yeah, there's, can I go to the map?
What do you usually
On
find?
the resolution.
Right here. Take the mic.
That's okay, just say.
I could talk loud.
You're doing good.
Under the resolution of 2001, this is the north side, this is the west, this is the east, and this is the south. Okay? When they came in, when Mr. Burlew bought this property, okay, he had to know about the resolution because he put that building up. And that building was okayed in the resolution. But then he put all bins down the western side and the south side, which is not allowed to be done. The township is now in litigation with this application. I don't know what the outcome's going to come. I've been following this for 4 years. And I thank you very much because this is the first time I got to talk about it. I've been in municipal court 2 years. Postpone, postpone, change your lawyer, change your lawyer. I know a lot of this doesn't have to do with the application. It happens to do about the applicator, the person that's putting it up here for you. As you can see,
Chairman, I'm going to object to if there's a personal dispute that you want to take up with this property owner, that's not appropriate.
Okay.
For this board. You want to address the application.
okay, we'll address the application.
To the,
There's 80,
the
When
issues
the-
that are before us.
excuse me?
Just try to keep it to the issues.
Yeah, okay, I
All the
will. I'm
variances and
sorry.
all the
I
waivers.
apologize.
You understand what you've been through. We've
Okay.
Papers and.
The product that comes in to the land, to the bins that they dump, are what they call super dump trucks. They're 88,000 pounds gross. That's 40 ton going on that property. Okay, so I don't think that land can hold that kind of trucks all the time. Number two, the product that is delivered there and also that he sells, it's a backhoe. They have an alarm, backup alarm. So they go 5 feet, they go 5 feet reverse, it always goes off. So if they take the product and put it into the bin and it takes him half hour, an hour, that beep is going on at least a half hour. Turn around, you have customers. You have to take the product out of the bin, which you have to go forward. And every time you go forward, you have to go in reverse. Beep, 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 and you dump it in the truck. You back up, beep, 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 turn around and go forward into the bin and get the product. That's all day long. The other thing, he wants a lot of outside storage. I didn't hear one mention of a high-low. I heard about pallets, heard about how high they want them. But to move a pallet, you got to have a high-low or a backhoe. They also have an alarm. Beep, beep, beep. I don't know what the decimals are, but it's pretty loud. And since he destroyed all of the buffer between his property and Merritt Avenue, we could see the highway like what's right there. It's like living in a warehouse. All this storage outside, all these bins. And now we got to live with this beep, beep, beep all day long. The trucks that deliver the product, the dump trucks, and they do it to everybody. They pull up and they let the back door swing and hit like a bomb. Boom. In the beginning, we thought there was an explosion. And I just want to know, he said about they would only work at night during an emergency. How many emergencies are there? One a year? One a night? 2 a month? 3 a month? Shouldn't be any emergencies, you're closed. You're not supposed to be open selling anything. So, and the trees that you want to put in as the buffer, what size are those trees?
So they're going in 8 to 10 foot high. Some of them will be growing to.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to have the witness come up so that the mics can catch the answer to the question.
This is Lena Barone, the project engineer.
So the evergreens are going in at 8 to 10 foot height, and that's the spruces, and then there's red cedars at 8 foot high. The spruces will grow 40 to 60 feet high with a 25 to 30 foot spread, and the red cedar grows 15 to 30 foot high with a 10 to 20 foot spread.
How high every year?
Well, that's probably like a 20 to 30 foot growth.
How many years to get to 30 feet?
Well, that's a 20 to 30 foot growth. It will take a while.
You don't know how long? 20 years?
20 to 30.
20 to 30 years. So now they're going to plant trees in 30 years. They're going to be high enough that the trees they killed today. Why can't they replace those trees that they killed today the same height as they are now, 30 feet? What kind of a neighbor is he? I would think he would be more than helpful to do that. No, let's kill more trees. Well, I don't know who put those trees in. It's been so long ago. But whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing, because those trees grew into each other. You didn't know what was on the other side there. You didn't hear anything on the other side. Nothing. And it took him 4 years to kill everything. 4 years, and they're dying. They're dead. There's a neighbor that'll come up here and show you. He has pictures of the dead trees. He has pictures of what it looked before he took over, and see what it is today. And it's astounding. And I think you should knock this application down. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anybody else from the public like to speak?
Can I bring information?
Bring whatever you want, as long as it's not a gun.
I have a folder for each member.
You have one for the applicant?
We'll see, I might.
If you don't, we'll share one.
Yeah.
But he has to get one too.
Steve, the one with the green.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to object at this point. Before, this is going to be presented as evidence, before it's handed out to the board, it should be introduced as any evidence would be. Now, I realize you may not understand that, but first, we should understand what it is and what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're just handing them out to the board at this point. We're not accepting anything as evidence at this point. It's administratively, literally handing them out, so they're not doing that in 5 minutes from now. No. But that will be the first thing once we get this individual,
Sworn in?
yep, his name and sworn in, because if he is, you are presenting evidence now, so it's not just asking questions, you will need to be sworn in. Okay, Mr. Do you want to first, please state your name and your address?
Jeffrey Short, 116 Merritt Avenue.
Jeffrey, please spell your last name.
Shaute.
Thank you.
And would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Now, you provided a binder to the board and to the applicant. Can you please identify what is this binder, what is in it, and
Pictures of
what you're presenting?
ongoing over the years of what's been going on, and some backup on some information that,
Can you speak, Jeff, speak into the mic?
some information that nobody knows anything about.
Okay, we're gonna, if this is gonna be presented to the board and accepted as evidence, you're gonna have to go through each document and identify what
Go
it is
page by
and
page,
explain
Frank.
through it.
If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate.
You have a incident report here with the Saraville Police
I
Department.
have 3 of them.
Okay, and then they were unloading trucks from 8 to midnight and then from 1 to 4:30 in the morning?
Yes, well, at different hours.
Board member, I'm sorry, don't everyone's, let's let him first identify each document and go through it before we start asking questions, because we haven't identified and verified what each document is yet. We need to do that for evidentiary purposes, and allow the applicant's attorney to object before we start going into the actual information contained in those documents. And just for also record keepers purposes, we need to mark this as an exhibit. It's being presented, how does the board usually present 01 for, okay, 01? So if you would please go through, this is an extensive binder, but if you would please just identify specifically before we start getting to questions, each document. I see that they've actually been, it looks like you have them numbered with stickies, but could you please go through and identify each document in this so that we know what we're talking about when we go
As
through
I
your
go,
testimony?
or
I think it's probably best if you identify each, at least what the documents are
right.
first, and then we can go through your testimony and
The
explain what they are.
documents are pictures of the site, specifically certain areas. The documents are pictures of different areas of the site. And there's some information on silica, which will be represented in the pictures. And also on RAP, which was also going to be represented in the pictures, which is asphalt grindings.
And you have, like I said, there's little stickies on each page or a lot
These-
page, those are in
these-
the numbers,
the
what are
sticky-
those?
Well, we'll take the first page, the silica. If you look at picture 12, 31, 32, and 33, I can explain what the
Okay,
silica
so
is.
those numbers
Exactly.
correlate to the picture that's in later
So,
in the
yeah, so
binder.
while I'm talking to you, you can go to page 12, and we can talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
So if we want to address silica first,
Why don't we go through all of them? If you have any objections after that, we'll,
okay, the second one is a report on asphalt millings. Okay, to be honest with you, I haven't had time to highlight everything in it, but there's a lot here. The next piece would be the police reports. One of them is when the applicant sprayed some of the trees along my fence line, and today those trees are dead. The second report is the excess flooding. The second time it happened, I filed a damage report with the police department. And the third one represents the night of January 17th, when he was loading salt, came back 3 or 4, maybe 5 times during the course of the night.
And if I could just interrupt you for 1 second, the 3 reports that you provided, were you specifically involved in those? Do you have direct knowledge of those reports and the
My
complaints made?
son-in-law was the first.
Okay.
He's in the audience. And both of the second ones I was involved in.
Okay.
Second and third one. The next picture is the overhead view of the property in 2015. Please notice the trees around the circle. Entering the circle specifically, which is the borderline on that, where that proposed roadway was that he was using, and the rest of the way around the circle. The next picture, number 2, is 2 years later, when he first moves into the yard. As we can see, the trees are dying or gone. We can also see the lot where he starts to excavate to put his drainage pit down at the bottom of the hill. Third picture is same as the one that's on the board there, showing all the bins, storage, number of vehicles. Picture 3A, that's when he begins to put his drainage pit in. If you notice, it's hard to notice, but it's there where that truck is sitting. He strip mined the property, removed all the sand to lower it. As he's doing this, don't ask me why he would strip mine the whole piece of property. Yes, he lowered the grade. Picture 4. Where that property was lowered, it shows the first truck dumping asphalt millings. There's 1,000 pictures, I'm only bringing a few. Picture 5 shows you tractor trailers going up the side of the road next to my house. Picture 6. Those are asphalt millings through that whole yard. I stopped counting at 50 tandem loads. He's moving it with a dozer. That's the old machine in the picture. Same day is at the end of the day when it's leveled out. Asphalt millings for fill. 214 just shows you a tandem dump truck going up along the side of my house. Picture 8A shows mulch stacked in the front of my house. Those are what the trees look like in picture 9 before they killed them. The mulch pile got so high, it got knocked over and stinks to high heaven all summer long. Picture 10, asphalt millings going up the side road that they're proposing to close. That's a roadway. That's what's killed.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to have to object to each of these photographs because they need, as you're introducing photographs as evidence, you have to give some indication of who took the photo, when it was taken, where it was taken from. And we're going to
Sir,
spend a lot of time.
can you give him that information?
I took the pictures, the dates are on each picture.
You took all of the pictures.
Absolutely.
How'd you get number 1 and 2 then?
Number 1 and 2, that was an aerial shot from Google.
You have a helicopter plane?
Google.
You Googled it, so you didn't take that picture yourself.
So we'll take those 2 out and we'll go.
Okay, I didn't take that picture. That yard never existed.
So we can take those.
Who
2
took
out
that
and go with
picture?
The rest.
At the very least,
Who took that picture?
our planner,
You have a helicopter?
he has a professional.
Yeah, come on,
And
come
he
on,
also stayed on his own.
come on,
property.
stop the.
However, for the record, this is a Google map.
Let me ask a question to the lawyer.
Question, please,
Yeah,
becomes when.
Let me ask a question to our lawyer. Are Google Maps admissible for evidence?
Yes, I can't say that this board, I'm new to this board, but yes, planning boards often accept Google Map photos as.
If not,
We don't know conditions.
Demonstrate the location and the time and where they were taken from and when they were delivered.
You know what days you took them?
No.
Yeah, this is.
But if not, I believe that, Jay, your office took Google pictures or had aerial photos. They actually hired somebody to send a drone out early on.
Mr. Chairman, in conjunction with the borough's litigation, at the request of the construction office, our office did have drone pictures taken of the property. And actually, we provided one of those copies to the board for your information.
You object to that?
Well, I do. I object to using photographs taken for another purpose for here. The reason we came here is to fix those problems.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I understand that some of these and some of the testimony may not go to this application. What I understand let me just finish. There may be, some of this may be relating to the prior violations or complaints that the neighbor may have against prior operations of the site and may not necessarily be directly associated with this application. I think what we need to do is allow the witness to at least the opportunity to continue identifying what these pictures are and what he's presenting to us. At that point, the gentleman can provide his opinion or testimony as to the application. If he starts going beyond and starts talking about the underlying litigation, which is not before this body, then we have to stop him. If we start talking about prior complaints or prior issues that go outside of the jurisdiction of this body, we will try to narrow it back down. But for at least for right now, I would like to give the individual, subject to Mr. Chairman's permission, the opportunity to at least go through what he's trying to present, identify what they are. If he took these pictures, he can tell us what they are and when he took them, and whether they're relevant to the application, we could talk about after that.
All right. I'm in agreement with that. Go ahead.
Okay, picture 11 is a dumpster being offloaded alongside the house. It's probably dumping something, but I don't have a picture of the rear of it. I couldn't tell you. All I know is that's one of his dumpsters and his truck. Picture 12. That's his truck, which is a dumpster. And as you can see, there is dust behind it. Okay. Every time a truck goes up and down that road, that's my backyard there. My deck is covered with dust and dirt. You can't go outside and sit at the table anymore, as of today. Picture 13 is also taken from the back of my house. He excavated behind the state's property, which is the backside of the circle. He created a road to park his equipment. And as he's doing it, he puts the wrap on the state's property, which kills all the vegetation, which was a buffer. So we didn't hear the traffic coming around the circle. Picture 15 is just another picture of it going furtherly around the circle, seeing more trees dead or gone. Picture 16 is salt and wrap. He took his excess salt that year that he had left over, put it up on the hill to kill anything that grew there. It's all rock salt. Picture 17 shows his loader going up and down the hill. If you notice, there's not a tree left around that circle. If you look at last year, that's water that's rushing through my yard. That's the fence. Picture 19 is my backyard. Due to the way the property was graded. Picture 20 is a picture of my basement where the water came through. Picture 21 is 9/11/23. Water's coming through the back of my yard, through the front of my yard, underneath my deck in picture number 22. Picture number 3, the force of the water from my yard and from his property is rushing through the fence at the bottom of the driveway or the bottom of by the road and from my yard. Picture 24 will show you how much water is directed from his property through our property. Picture 25, the pressure of water is so great, it pushes all that stone into the street. Picture 26 shows him moving blocks alongside of the road up to the front of the property. Picture 27, which is if that was the area where you saw the mulch in the bins before, that picture was taken from that spot. He builds a ramp because one of his machines isn't big enough to load a tandem dump truck, so he creates a ramp to load the trucks. Every time he goes up and comes up, like Mr. Duffy said, beep, beep, it's all day long. Picture 28 is 1/7/24, 8:08 p.m., loading salt. 8:11 p.m. is the same picture with him down the bottom of the hill loading the salt. Picture 30 shows the amount of equipment and the size of it going around the circle. That was taken from my truck as I drove around. As you notice, there's not a tree alive around that circle. Picture 31, picture 32, and picture 33 is silica dust. When you dump stone, any kind of stone, and I have MSDS sheets to show you that it's silica dust is hazardous and cancer causing. Picture 34 is the Borough Serval's lot, 432, lot 1. You just spent over $100,000 to put a children's park there. Silica dust travels, I believe it's 750 meters, which is over 2,000 feet, and will stay in the air for 10 to 12 days. Picture 35 was taken on 2/24, showing you that he's prepared to load his bins again. Even though we're here today not having an approval, the original drawing showed 6-foot high bins. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bins. I'm gonna guess some blocks are 24 to 30 inches apiece. Picture 36 is the infamous front yard that we want everybody in the public to see. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, this picture doesn't have a number. This is water from the outlet of the underground detention system that's draining into Deeker's Farm. That outlet is at the bottom corner. It's draining into Deeker's Farm. And that water sure isn't clean coming out of it because it's running through the asphalt grindings before the retention system. That's another picture of the same area, just a little bit further down.
You took these two last pictures yourself as well. Is that correct?
No, I didn't. These two pictures were taken by my neighbor who's sitting in the back. Because he lives on that corner of the property. It's behind his house. I have in the front, there's 2 MSDS sheets. One of it, I only did 2 of them because there's so much information here. I could be here all night. He's got River Pebble, which he clearly indicates he's selling, and he's selling masonry sand. If you read these reports, crystalline silica causes damage to lungs through prolonged and repeated exposure from inhaling dust. There's dust all over my house. It's there every day. That dust can linger for 2 to 3 days. I have a 3-year-old that comes out. We have to wash the deck off before we let the kid out the back door to go on the deck. Something's got to stop. I don't know what to do. You've got information here. I don't know if you're going to use it or not use it, but I'm giving you everything I got. And the flooding definitely has to stop at my house.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just based on what you've, and I appreciate all of the work you put together, this binder, it's very impressive. Do you have anything further that would, address any concerns specifically now with the application? Not necessarily
Absolutely, the
the
bins have
prior.
to go.
What's that? I'm sorry.
You can't have 15 bins if you're going to dump all day. It's silica dust. It causes cancer. Every time you dump in the buckets, he didn't mention it. We just don't load a truck. It's boom, 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 boom. He shakes the bucket all day. Okay? It's ridiculous. And their plan for loading and unloading, there's not enough room there for a tandem trailer. Okay? It's not there. And the garbage truck, it's a front-loading garbage truck that picks up his refuse. That has to pull into that driveway. So it has to back out. So you're going to tell me this dumpster guy's going to pull in and he's going to go down the hill, he's going to turn around and leave? It's not happening. Besides that, I can't figure out how he's getting garbage pickup from the borough of Sayreville, but that's another subject. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Sean, have you tried to resolve these issues with,
For 4 years. And we went to zoning, we went to construction official, and we just got tied up in court. He kept changing attorneys. Tried to say his property wasn't his, it was under an LLC, and back and forth. His father had passed away, which we understood. And we just been in and out, and changed prosecutor in Sayreville, that tied us up. So
there's been no meeting with the neighbors and
it lasted about 30 seconds.
try to resolve?
30 seconds. I mean, listen, I own a business too. My neighbors never said a word to me about my business. And I loaded salt at night, but I was smart enough to load it and take the backup alarm off so it didn't go off all night. It I can't explain it.
How do you know it was silica? Did you have it tested?
What's that?
How did you know it was silica that was in the?
Read the MSDS report.
No, how did you know in the pictures it was silica? Did you ever have the air tested or anything?
No, I didn't have it tested. But every stone that he supplies, and he gives you a list of them on his drawings, just pick out the stones, go to MSDS and read what the report says. It's silica dust.
Chairman, I don't know if you now the rights to request. I think we have, just in sort of monitoring. We do a baseline, do some monitoring, it's
I couldn't quite hear it.
silica dust monitoring. Standard practice for construction sites. Are we within our rights to
It's the
request
first
a monitoring?
time anybody's raised this silica question.
It's because you don't live there.
So well, you could do silica monitoring, we can, if it's allowed, we can request noise monitoring to see where we're within the kind of noise mitigation rules that we're allowed to follow. We may be able to ask if the applicant can change out his backup alarms to white noise alarms rather than
Well,
beeping.
if I can on the
If
backup.
we're within that.
On the backup alarms, we've had this come up on numerous applications. It's a federal regulation.
But you can change from a
Turn it
beep,
off, ask Mr. Cornell.
not what I was asking. Not what I was asking. You could put
Let
a
him
white,
finish.
no, I'm a contractor. You could use a white noise. It's still a noise. It's not the loud beeping. And we use that often in residential and populated areas when we have excavator and loader moving. Perfectly legal by ocean.
Yeah, I've never had that.
It's two, three.
Look it up.
Was that?
That's 2, 3. We got the drones, we got that, and we got that. That's all right. Something new.
It's a federal regulation. If there's a modification to it that permits a lesser sound,
Less.
I have no problem. I would
Less,
recommend to my client to do
intrusive
that.
sound.
I would just comment that
Yes.
sound was not there to aggravate the neighbors.
Yes.
It's there because of the regulations.
This is they are requesting variance relief, so we can ask for reasonable conditions on this approval. One of the issues is with the variance relief is negative effect on the neighboring properties as part of the proofs that are required for granting variance relief. So if there is a question of noise and excessive noise exceeding the property line, we can, as a condition of approval, if the board grants approval, is require some type of testing, noise testing during hours of operation and, continuing monitoring. We'd have to set some type of parameters as to, a baseline versus.
Ambient.
Right, and then, some type of a year out or 6 months, a year out, 2 years out, as to come back with subject to the board's professionals or the town's borough's professionals, compliance, that they do continue to maintain that level.
Complaint was made to the EPA.
Right. I mean, that's something that is within the board's discretion, because with granting the variance, like I said, it does require, the negative criteria. So if there's a question about whether or not they meet that negative criteria, a condition can be imposed.
And then have a silica as well. Silica dust monitoring. If you have the same program. Requested.
Yes, I believe so, if that's, or at least because I don't think we have any testimony conclusive that it is silica at this point. So we can do just general dust testing as to make sure that dust, leaving the site, meets all
Do air
required.
sampling, see what it is, and then.
But it does, I wouldn't limit it to silica, because while that it may be what it is, and it may be what, ends up being, but at this point, we don't know. We just know it's a dust.
Normally, we just call for air sample
Right.
And noise sampling
and noise sample.
with the white noise.
Well, the white noise is the alternate to the beep.
Right.
So that's a positive side, but we want the noise monitoring program put in.
As the applicant, find what the operating hours are, the business hours are, because obviously he's not living up to.
Yeah, he told us Saturday, Monday through Friday was one, and then Saturday and Sunday was another.
Sunday.
No Sundays.
And so if the board did
8 to 2
grant
on
the,
Saturday.
if the board granted the approval, that would be the hours of operation they're agreeing to. So if they did violate that, it would be a zoning violation, because they would be violating the terms of this
We
board's.
could have that monitored though too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's within the municipal monitoring of any zoning ordinance or zoning violation, yes.
However, if the school's using it for salt on a overnight.
Well, that's something we'd have to
Is there-
specify, I know we talked about, I shouldn't talk about. The applicant testified that there's going to be times that it would be at night for emergency purposes for salt. We'd have to, in the resolution, get a little bit more specific
waiver
as
from the
to
Board of-
what those times are and what the purpose is. Is it only going to be for Board of Education purposes, or is it for other public bodies that may need the salt at that time? And when is it, when only those bodies request it? Or, is there some other type of terminology we want to use? That's something we'd have to work out with the applicant if we the board decides to move forward with the application. But yes, it's something that I think needs to be further ferreted out. As well as one of the items that I was going to bring up is with regard to, we talked about the height of the bins, but we never actually landed on it. The board was talking about setting forth and coming to an agreement on a maximum height, but we never actually said what that was, so we need to
Height
go
of the
further on
bins,
that.
But the height of materials.
That's, yes, the final storage as to all the bins, when they're stacked up, what's the max we're gonna allow them? If the board grants approval for this, we need to still talk about that with the applicant as to what we want to impose and what they will agree to.
Chairman, I interrupt Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, is the issue with the off-hour use of the property, is it because of the noise in the trucks? Like, for instance, recently, in January of 2024.
Right.
Called the police. Was it because of the noise?
Well, yeah, he loads, well, God knows who's coming in the yard. It's only a mason dump, a small guy. He comes in, starts the machine up, comes down the hill. It's probably not even Brian, one of his workers. Can't blame him. They load the truck, boom, boom, boom with the bucket, backup alarm, the whole thing. Guy leaves, maybe another guy makes a phone call, calls, an hour later, here comes another truck.
It's more than the beeping though.
Oh, it's loading the truck. Well, you have to understand, when a loader shakes he empties his bucket, so he rattles it, bum, 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 bum. Okay, every contractor in the world knows that, it's just like a backhoe operator. It just wakes you up. I mean, it's loud.
Okay, so Jim's idea would affect the beeping, but not the.
No,
No, the beeping is probably half of the problem.
Yeah, it's the dump trucks that get tailgates. The tailgate slams so hard, it probably scares the people on Ann Terrace.
So the flooding that you're experiencing and Jay, with the drainage issues that are being addressed here, impact the flooding that we saw would eliminate the flooding in those pictures?
We raised a concern based upon the residents' complaint about flooding. The applicant has regraded the property to direct water onto this resident's property. I think the engineer indicated that they could regrade it to divert the water away from the property, so that should address the flooding concern.
Listen, I've been there since 1998. I never had water till 2 years ago. Okay. Also, you have to address the trees. Those trees just didn't die because they decided, I'm gonna die today. Those are 70 to 80-foot trees coming around the circle. They died for a reason. They died because there's asphalt grindings or contaminated fill stacked up around those trees. I don't have any of those pictures, but he had mounds of dirt stacked up around the roots. So he's killed those trees. Down at the bottom of the hill, where the end of Merritt Avenues, those trees went all the way to Deeker's Farm. They're 40-foot trees. You couldn't see through them. The ones by Deeker's Farm or my neighbor's property, those first 8 or 10 died 2 years ago. They were sticks. The ones at the end of Merritt Avenue and go closer to my house, they're still there, but they're barely there. What's killing them? He can plant as many trees as he wants tomorrow morning, and I guarantee you in 2 years they're dead. You got the asphalt millings in the ground, the water's running through, and it's killing them. Okay, I'm not a rocket scientist, but put 1 and 1 together, it's 2. Something's killing the trees. Okay, around the circle, same thing. That circle was forsythia bushes all the way around. Green all year. They're gone.
Show them that. Well, Mr. Schaub, we're trying to address some of these
Yeah,
issues.
but those are issues.
Well, you're not, I mean.
I
don't
know.
have an expert here to say that there's definitive chemicals that are killing this vegetation.
Okay,
So, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying what you're saying is incorrect. I'm just saying there's no expert testimony or report saying this is what's causing it. But we're trying to address some of these concerns. So what I'm hearing is the flooding, the dust, and the noise. So we've got a potential way to abate the noise, to deal with the flooding through so I'm now turning to the dust. How do we prevent that dust from going on neighboring houses without boosting the buffering up instantaneously? Is there a way we can do that?
you're looking at how to fix it. I'm looking at how to stop it.
Well, we're doing what we can.
I mean,
to try to address it.
did anybody hear what I said? It causes cancer if it's silica dust. And you're gonna put a park 200 feet away? What are we doing? Those are children.
If what you say is true, I agree. I just we don't have any expert testimony.
And I understand that, so you have to follow up.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that is the case and it's affecting your property, you have your private rights as a landowner to sue them and get your.
Well, that's coming next.
As a nuisance, you go into chancery and you get an injunction if they're putting deadly chemicals on your property. Right now, we're not saying what you're saying is not true. We just don't have the evidence in front of us that it is silica and it's so.
Air monitoring will verify that.
And just to clarify, this board doesn't have the ability to stop the use. This board is only hearing, and that's why I said we have to make sure we stay within the jurisdiction of what this is being presented to this board. This board is being presented with an application to modify the amended site plan, to modify the site. And what we've heard testimony for, and our board professionals as well have noted in their plans, is that a lot of this is alleviating the conditions, a lot of the existing conditions that have been found in violation, that there has been violations issued on, and that's what this application is to address. And this board is here to try to make sure that it's done in the correct way, but it is not to shut down the site. We don't have that authority. Even if we denied the application, the site still continues to operate. This is just to address the application that's before the board. And from what we've, heard testimony so far, it is trying to alleviate a lot of the concerns that you're dealing with. And that's why this board is trying to engage with you to try to see, is there anything else that maybe there is within our jurisdiction that we can address with the applicant here as part of the application. But I just wanted to address, because I know you said, we want to stop it, not amend it, but that's not what this body does. This body can only address the application before it.
Well, can I just clarify that, though? Because from my understanding, the original resolution allowed for a landscaping business.
That's exactly what
This seems to be something that's far expansive than a landscaping business. So is it within our realm to be able to make a decision that's related to how overpopulous this site has begun or not? Because that doesn't include all the addition of product that's there now. So if we can't address that, then we're addressing it on the back end of noise pollution and all this other stuff that allows something to go on when maybe we can address it right up front, say, some of this should be prohibited and shouldn't be happening to begin with. So I need that to be clarified because I think you made that unclear to me.
I apologize if I made it unclear. I didn't mean that we don't have jurisdiction over what that application is before us. But we have, let me be clear though. They have prior approvals. They have been operating it from what,
Landscaping
right.
business.
And if there is a violation of that, it's not this body that is the judge and jury that says you now have to stop working. That is the zoning officer filing complaints, and it goes to the municipal court or the superior court that actually makes that jurisdiction that says you're current in violation of your prior approval or the current zoning ordinances. What this body does is review the application and tries to work with the property owner to develop it, to make it as compliant as possible.
12 additional bins of new material. Is that correct?
From what I understand, yes.
So is that also part of our decision making?
Yes.
Is whether they can have these 12 bins of that? new
Right,
material?
yes, because if you're going to vote and
Because
approving
quite
it, you're
frankly,
approving
just
that.
Seems to me ridiculous that we're going through this entire charade of doing all these things to be able to mitigate something that shouldn't be there to begin with.
No, I agree. I don't mean to make it confusing. I'm stating
Well,
that
it's not confusing to me,
a
but I think you're
denial.
confusing everybody else.
Well, no, but my point being is if we deny this application, the board says we don't like it. You're not going to do what we're asking you to do. You're putting too many bins. You're not going to reduce. We want them to reduce, the board goes back and says we want to reduce them to 5 bins. And they say, well, no, we're not going to do that. We can't. And we deny the application. That doesn't mean all of a sudden tomorrow they're not going to go and start operating as they are. I just wanted to be clear to the public that our action doesn't stop. That's all I meant was we don't have the authority to injunctively stop them from operating tomorrow. But we can say you're not permitted because if we grant approval, that means they are permitted and they are able to operate based on what they're presenting. So then we do justify it based upon the terms that we agree to and the conditions that we impose if the board does grant the approval.
Is this a permitted use to store that material in the bins?
3 bins.
I defer to our
If you-
planner on whether it meets the
3
permission.
bins were approved initially, so the
Right.
bins
3
were.
bins of what though? What could they store?
Dirt and mulch. The original guy was a,
Wait a minute, where are you getting dirt and mulch from?
the original, he was a
This is
landscaper.
a typical landscaping business. I think we've all been to any of them, even Home Depot. You can buy stones there, you can buy rocks, you can buy, this is a very typical for a landscaping business that markets not just to retail, but to wholesale. And I think what you're hearing is a sound objection to, I didn't know of, I've had this come up from multiple clients over the years, the issue of the beepers, and it never gets further than change the federal regulation and you don't have to have them. Now, there must have been some amendment to it I'm not aware of that permits another type of beeper, so be it. If that's available, we'll finally put it in.
The issue I have is you have a permitted use that is causing a nuisance on the neighboring property. A nuisance isn't a permitted use. So he's got pictures showing this dust and it's invading his land. So that is a nuisance in my view. And so how do we,
Well, I
that's not a
understand that,
permitted
but
use.
it's an issue too, where you have a commercial use permitted next to a residential use. This particular neighbor has chosen to expand his yard 15 feet onto my client's property. We've asked him to move it. He told me, his attorney told me that someone was sick there. We backed off and then.
Is it just one property affected
Hang
by
on.
the dust?
Let's address
Well, I
the
don't- I've
property
never
and
heard
the
dust
fence.
until
Okay.
today.
The property and the fence,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Well, I was trying
the
to-
property and the fence, the day Mr. Baloo moved in, my wife specifically said, Brian, do you want me to move the fence? No, you don't have to.
3 times I asked.
3 times. As of last year, until he came up with all this new design, fence wasn't an issue. So the fence will get moved.
Okay, please, tomorrow will be good. Thank you.
As soon as I fix the grading and my property stops flooding because the fence is kind of stopping some of the water.
Is it where the dust, is it just your house? Or is it other houses?
There you go.
Well, you- they're going back, yeah.
No, all back here.
The dust is affecting,
Next door.
Mr. I
Yeah, I know.
we have to keep.
Let's go through the chair. There's
Yeah.
numerous people here from Merritt Avenue that have the same problem. Is that correct? Can you all raise your hands? All right, everybody see that?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for raising your hand. So it's just not one property. We have a nuisance that's being created for a number of people. How do we resolve them?
Our plan enhances the buffer from the 25 feet permitted to 50. Prepare land. Enhance the buffer to 50 feet to move the bins away, except those two that we'd like to ask the board to let us have there. We've been proposing a heavy landscaping plan. And I think the only other thing we could possibly do is a board-on-board fence on the property line.
You be in agreement of doing an air study, water study, and
Well, I'd like to be able to agree to everything, but before I agree to that, I really have to understand how much it costs. Because it may be such that we'd have to abandon ship.
may be subject to the outcome of our decision. I mean, I myself need to know if the white noise is a lot better than the beepers. I have to know the height that they want on, what you guys want on, and what we want on the bins, the number of bins. And I'm not quite sure if that drainage system's gonna work. It didn't work the first time, you're gonna double it. The pictures that we were showed, that's an awful lot of water coming through there per minute. So, to me, I would like to know if you would do that. If we could come up with a 3-month time frame where we do a water, soil, and air, the dust, and then as a board, address the other issues that we have open. When you come back, you can all try to come to agreement on a plan.
Well, I certainly want to accommodate and respond to all your comments. Perhaps, may I ask if you could coordinate that with your attorney and we can then communicate so I don't miss it?
That's fine by me.
And if I may, just to, I was able to, Mr. Chairman, through you, just to answer the one question regarding the fill that is permitted. I quickly, I looked through the resolution, and the prior resolution does just say landscape materials such as topsoil, et cetera. So it's not limited to topsoil, it's limited to what would be considered landscape material. I don't see any definition in the resolution, and I did a quick research of our ordinances, and based on my quick research, I didn't see a definition in there. So it would have to be based on the industry standard of what landscape material is, which could include those type of rocks and materials and so forth. That is, it was, the original approval is limited to 3. So if this board doesn't approve more and they built more, those are zoning violations. That would have to be addressed outside this board. Now, this board says, we will agree, but maybe not the 14 you're asking, but 12 or 10 or whatever that may be. That would be something that would have to work out with the developer, and that would be, the applicant, they'd have to either agree to that or not, because otherwise it's a denial and it goes back to what the 2001 approval is for, and then it goes through the zoning issues again. It wouldn't be before this board. But I think what Mr. Chairman was saying is, it makes sense that we've heard a lot of issues that potentially are nuisances on neighboring properties, which directly affect the granting of a variance relief that is being requested here. So I think it makes sense to work it out where we talk about, and I think one of the things, Mr. Chairman, that you didn't state is the noise as well when we're doing the studies.
Well,
Because-
I addressed it with the white beepers.
Oh, yes, but I think there's also just the general noise, because the township does have, the borough, excuse me, does have a noise ordinance. And they do have to comply with that noise ordinance. Maybe it is simply as enough that if we move forward with this application, is that they have to, a statement in there that they have to agree to comply with that noise ordinance, which they do by law. And if they're not complying with that, then that's a separate violation that they have to deal with, and it's a separate issue that is going on. But it may be something along those lines, because that noise ordinance, from what I've reviewed, follows the DEP standard, which is a pretty high standard. So that means that at the edge of their property, they have to meet a maximum noise or maximum decibel, and if they don't, they're in violation. And that's, beyond whether or not we grant approval or not. So maybe. Mhm. Understood. But it's something that, it sounds like the applicant, Mr. Chairman, is willing to discuss this further with us and maybe perform some studies and provide some additional information to address what these, the neighboring property owners are identifying as nuisances related to this operation. And it's something that we should probably look into and have the applicant come back with that information. And we could work through it, through the attorneys as to exactly, and our other professionals, our engineer and our planner as well, as to what exactly that is. So that when the applicant does come back, they have the information that this board needs to make a decision, as well as addressing the concerns of the public.
One question.
Go ahead.
I would go from a landscaper to a bulk landscape supply. Flower.
Louder.
I would go from a landscaper to a bulk landscape supply. There's a big difference.
Mr. Chairman, that is why the applicant is here. The borough has issued violations because what is there now is not in compliance with what originally was approved. The type of use, the hours of operation, number of employees, numerous things were done without the approval of the borough. That's why this matter went to court. And my understanding is the court directed the applicant back to the board to attempt to get approval for what they did because it did not comply with the original resolution of approval.
On the original resolution, the landscaper gave me the number of vehicles that need to be used. Is it possible that we could get the number of vehicles that Mr. Baloo owns, what size they are, and how many? Because with the amount of trucks he has there. So I wouldn't go
That's
forward.
already in this agreement here. Board of Adjustment. Agency. Your application number 0052, section 13, he listed the equipment that they have: 3 dump trucks, 2 rack truck bodies, 3 mason dumpers, 4 pickup trucks, 3 tag-along trailer. I'm just reading what's here, what they agreed to.
Unfortunately, the resolution that you have in your package was for information purposes only. This applicant before you is not looking to comply with those conditions. This resolution restricts retail. They are proposing retail.
Right.
There's
That's
numerous
my
things that are proposed. The hours of operation are different than what's in the resolution. That's why he's here. He wants you to go through and grant approval for all the modifications that were made without borough approval. Kind of an after the fact situation is what you're dealing with. So just to clarify that, the resolution you have is really for information, so you know what the board heard and what the board approved before, but that's not what's before you.
Anybody else from the public? I just want to remind everybody, and I'm not trying to cut anybody short, but we end at 11 o'clock. So,
Get the public up here.
Mr. Chairman, from my end, I would like, whenever you're finished, I would like the opportunity to carry the application to be able to respond to these issues.
Please step up and talk into the mic, sir.
I live on a block 13 Merritt Avenue, directly next door to the business.
Can you please spell your name?
Trying to understand why from commercial property we jumped into industrial property. This is what he does is everything industrial, for heavy duty industrial truck, heavy duty machinery, and furthermore, how he fueled those machines. You gotta take that to consideration, how he fueled it. How do you put the fuel in a machine? You don't drive on a highway to get a fuel, diesel or anything else. Because this is not just one backhoe. This is it's multiple equipment we're talking about, multiple trucks. And you guys, if you want to hear the noise, I have on a telephone. I could play you one, at least one.
I think that's okay. We understand that you have a noise problem.
It's a big noise. It's not just little.
I understand.
not to
That's
do it
my
cross. What they say, I don't want to repeat myself. But that's
You
what,
can do me a favor and spell your name though.
Lesniak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only thing I want to say because they
Appreciate
say everything already.
Anybody else would like to speak? Sir? Ma'am, you're next.
Good evening, board, ladies and gentlemen.
Your name?
My name is Steve Diaz. I live at 116 Merritt Ave. I just wanted to get some clarification on my part, the application. I understand it has multiple parameters. However, some of it, or part of it, has to do with, I guess, fixing or a remedy for some of the issues that have been brought to you today. My question is, if it's been a 4-year process to get to where we are today, how can we be sure that those solutions are going to resolve the problems that we have?
Best we could do is rely on the engineers in our profession. That's what we're doing so far, and that's how we've gotten it down, narrowed it down to where we're at. So my question is, professionals, and one thing I want to see fixed for sure is the water problem. I mean, the water that was coming through onto Merritt Avenue, I knew that there was a problem when I drove down there and I could see the stains in the road. But when you actually see gallons per minute coming out of that property, there was a lot of damage done that didn't have to be done. They're telling me that this is gonna solve the problem. What happens if it doesn't?
Mr. Chairman, I think to answer the resident's question, let's assume this application was approved. There would be numerous conditions that would have to be satisfied. The applicant would submit revised plans to the borough. They would be approved. The applicant would have to construct everything in accordance with those plans. If he did not, if he's continuing to operate without complying with the resolution, then we're back to violations issued by the borough, taking it to court.
Understood, sir. My concern, though, is when we talk about the professionals, one of the professional statement was to bring a closer compliance. So either you're compliant or you're not.
That's what a variance is for. That's what he's also, if he's not complying, he's asking for a variance and a waiver. And the planner went through all the reasons why it wasn't detrimental for us to grant the variance. Doesn't mean that we have to, but he laid out his case.
Understood, sir.
Why we asked you for your opinion on what's coming on. You guys are living there. You know, I've been in town my whole life and I know exactly where it is. I wouldn't want to live there right now.
Right. The planner, I believe, said that there are benefits, multiple benefits. However, how we see it, I can probably speak for all the residents behind me, that some of these quote unquote benefits are just fixing the issues that they cause. The planting of the trees, the water issues, these are things that were caused directly by the actions of the neighbor. So we're not seeking for benefits, we're not looking at that as benefits, we're just trying to get back to status quo. Right?
And we're trying to make it better.
Of course, and that's, I mean, I work my butt off. I come home, I like peace, I want to feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I have a stressful job, so that's very important. When I come home and my 3-year-old can't go outside because there's sun and dust outside, that's a problem. When my pregnant wife at the time was downstairs in the basement soaking up the water because we were getting inundated with water from every which way, that's a problem. I'm quiet. I don't bother anybody. I don't say anything. But when it comes to my family comes first. And I'm sure all of you sit for me today would say the same. So in regards to this application, my concerns are the legitimacy of them following through. They spoke about signs. Signs are great if people listen. People listen to a speed sign, nobody would speed. Nobody would want a stop sign. Speed limits wouldn't exist because everyone would listen to a sign. Me living there, I've seen the traffic. There's no way that they can manipulate all that traffic and be able to be successful with resolving that traffic. It's just impossible. I'm sorry, I don't know what you do again. It doesn't matter. She stated that that side road on the south side was not to be used or was not used. She said that in its current state, that is false. That is a lie. Maybe she does not know, and I don't blame her, but she is under oath. They do use that. They use it for parking, they use it for transit, they use it for loading. Just up until recently, they closed it off, so now they can't, but they do use it to back in and out of that space. I've seen it, and if you want to ask me, I could testify to it, I'll be under oath, not a problem, I have no problem saying it, because it's true. These are things that I've had to deal with since I've been there. I just took a couple notes, if you bear with me. The grading, obviously the flooding, my father-in-law did a great job with providing you guys with kind of behind her, with all the information pertinent to this application. So I'm not gonna touch too much base on that, because I know time is of the essence. But the grade obviously was changed, which I believe caused the flooding. Being there the past 3-4 years, I've seen it gradually increase, as well as the trees die. In its current state as it is now, it is a nuisance. It's been a nuisance, it's only getting worse. Pertinent to the application, because I know that's what we're here for today, those bins along that side are still gonna remain a nuisance. They're still there, they're there now, they're gonna be there. If this application is passed, that will not change. The lighting from the building, they stated that there's no lights in the exterior of the building. That is a lie. There are 2 lights that face us, specifically our residents. It's an ambient light, it's not a bright light, but it's a light nonetheless. And it directly faces my little girl down. Again, they touch base, my neighbors touch base on the noise, both the light noise and the traffic noise from around the circle that you see on the map. That was not there, but 3 or 4 years ago when I first moved into my with my wife. Now it is. We can see right through it. It's a problem. I stated before, the trees being planted, it's great, but it's not going to be the same barrier that we had before. And again, I understand their point of view is aesthetics. The front of the business, aesthetically pleasing, it's great, but we're not here as residents. We don't really care about aesthetics. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. We need to solve the problems. Aesthetically, I understand it may look better, but it's still an issue. It's like just putting a Band-Aid on a wound. Again, rules and regulations, town ordinances, they're meant to be to uphold standards. That's why I'm here speaking on behalf of myself, my family. I moved to Sayreville 3-4 years ago. I fell in love with the area. My wife grew up here. I run right at the field. As I told you guys, I have a stressful job. Come home. I like the peace and quiet. That gets taken away from me in the mornings and at night. That's all I could say. On the first occasion when I called the police to do a report, it's because there was a waxy like substance that was sprayed along the tree line, to which my dog at the time had licked, which ended up having me to take him to the vet. And he got sick. So that's where that police report came from that you guys have in your file. That was me. I also did call the police officers for another incident of flooding, which I don't believe they documented. But I did call down Sayreville PD.
I've got to say, can we focus on the application?
Well,
I don't want
it's
to see anybody.
it's pertinent to the
anything like
pertinent to the
that.
application,
That's not really.
because these things are things that are going to continue to happen. They're going to continue to happen. As you can see in one of the pictures, the flooding is excessive. Not only does it go into our yard, but it also goes into the neighbor's yard. That's why it's relevant. So if let me finish my thought, I'll get that out there. The water goes into my yard, into my neighbor's yard. Unless the grade is changed drastically, and sir, I agree with you. The amount of water that flushed through that front, on that side of the house, it's a lot to mitigate. A lot. I was the one that was outside trying to create some type of a barrier to stop the water from getting into our basement. And even then, I don't know if my neighbors are gonna come up here and say anything, but it got up to his pool, which he's the neighbor on the other side, on the south side of our house. So it went through our house and got to there. I don't know how that's going to be remediated with their suggested plans. Well, I would say.
Anybody else like to speak?
I'm gonna be brief. Paula Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. I'm going to address the application. The bins are still near our houses. And that's where all the vegetation started to go first. And the way that you have the trucks coming in, someone addressed it before, they have to back up, then they have to back up, back up. There's so many variances and waivers in this application What is he conforming with what the land is for? It's like this is gonna be custom made, despite what all the regulations are in town. He's making it custom made, variance, waiver, I lost count. But my final words to you all are, my final 3 words. Beep, beep, beep. Think of that. That's what we hear. Thank you, and deny this application, please.
Would you like to sum up?
No, I'd like to request, Ms. Terry.
Okay, one second. You need a motion, and does anybody else want to speak? Go ahead, one more time.
Now that you heard the neighbors and what we've been going through in 4 years, and to the attorney, we're not here for you to fix the problems. We're here to let you know that this was done in 2001 in detail, and you didn't abide by it. So what makes you think he's gonna abide by what you put down? Okay? What you need to do. Knock this application down and let the courts deal with it. Because the courts have started dealing. I want to ask one question to the attorney. Why'd they move the 5 bins? Kindness of their heart? Why'd they move the 5 bins on the southern part of the property?
The whole purpose of this application is to buffer and to shield the southern part from this site. So that was an attempt to satisfy you, which I realize now is not achievable. So we'll have to continue to deal with the board to try and get some kind of.
So they moved those 5 bins on the kindness of their heart.
You know what? What are you
I'm just
trying to
saying
prove?
yes or no?
Could you say
Yes
yes?
or
No.
no?
How do I know something like that?
Well, you're his attorney. Well, can
So-
I ask Mr. Burlew, why'd you move
No,
the 5
he's not in
bins?
front of you. He's not here speaking.
Well, then you're speaking for him, so I'm
I
asking
don't know
you.
what's in his heart. I don't know what's in your heart. What I know
Let me
is
just give
that
you a
our
few,
client is here.
let me give you
trying
a few
to get
dates.
Compliance with
Okay.
the ordinances.
August 1st, the order was out to remove all the bins. Okay? October, the township went back in the court. Nothing was done. 0. A Superior Court judge ordered him to move those bins. Did nothing. Andrew, the zoning officer, took pictures for the attorney to go back in and a 5-day rule they went after. He still did nothing. Nothing. Finally, on the 21st of December, 23, he finally moved in the bins. Because they were gonna shut him down. Okay? This is all I'm just trying to let you, bring you up to speed of what's going on. I've been dealing with this guy for 4 years. Now, I want to ask a very simple question, and we're not experts, we're neighbors. How long does it take for a planning board application to be submitted? Average.
That's really a tough, because it depends on the
Average,
application.
I'm
I mean,
asking for a number, average. Say 10 years, I just want a name, I want to know a number.
wouldn't be able to answer that, I'm sorry. I mean, it's just too many variables.
So I'm gonna
With-
object. It's not appropriate for anyone, objector or an applicant, asking the board.
Why?
Why?
A question like that.
Why?
Well,
all right, then answer the question.
Because every application is different.
Absolutely. I didn't say each application, I said an average,
I'd say 4 to 6 months
4 to 6 months.
for the average application.
For the average applicant, is this
This
an
is not
average,
an
is this an
average
average applicant? No, okay. Well, just to let you know,
You want to
Jay
ask me about
knows, this is going on since 21. When his first attorney told the judge, we're filing an application. That was a lie. Then September 23, he finally put an application in. Okay? And in the application, they did it all wrong. They didn't want it approved right away. They knew what they were doing. They're experts. They know how to delay. They knew this.
What are you saying we did wrong? You better have a specific
I'm
position.
telling
You're
you,
accusing us of
I'm
malpractice.
giving
I
you
want
the
to know what it
dates.
is.
I'm giving you the dates.
No, I want to know what we did wrong in the filing the application. You got declared complete.
Yeah.
We met.
Now you got it complete, 2.5 years later. Is that normal? No. It's not normal.
Your facts are wrong.
Okay. Just deny the application, let the courts deal with them. And then your hands are clean. Your hands are clean. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're trying to be experts, but we're neighbors.
Mr. Duffy, I read the entire court document before the hearing. I'm not saying that what you're telling me, Ms. Binder, is not true, but people are coming up here and saying that there's cancer-causing dust in the air and all these other things. There's gonna be bad water on the Deeper Farms. I'm just saying, we as a board, if you're presenting evidence like that, I suggest you get an expert to back it up if it's true.
If you want to know about silicon, whatever it is, it's in there that all stones have it. And it causes cancer. Okay, it causes cancer. So if you go to any landscaper supply, they got stones, yellow stones, brown stones, it all has that dust in it. It's already certified by the federal government. And the lot he gave you, that lot is in the 200 feet of that property, and that's a park in Sarah. Would you send your kids there? No. No, act like a neighbor. Act like a neighbor. This man said it right. He said he would want to live where we are.
Mr. Duffy, I think we can all agree that nobody wants to be inundated with dust and have dust infiltrate their house and people to breathe dust. We all can agree on that. And I'm not disputing any of this with you. I'm just saying that this quasi judicial body, which is a planning board, I don't know, maybe the zoning board's more quasi judicial, but we're a board and we have to hear evidence. We have experts, the engineers, the planners, they present their experts. You're entitled to get your expert to come up here and confirm that this is silica and it's cancer causing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand you're saying it, but we don't do this every day. It takes a lot of courage for a person to come to this dais. They're not public speakers. You gotta take that into consideration. That's all I'm saying. We would love to be professionals. If we were professionals, it wouldn't take 2 years to get it through. We would have been pounded on the door.
We take everyone seriously, as the chair has indicated. Everybody is concerned about the impact on the neighbors. I was just saying, when people are coming up here and saying that this chemical killed all the trees, this chemical is causing cancer, it would be helpful to this board if there was an expert.
Okay. I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna go down to your level. You're in a room. It's 4 people smoking. Is that cancer, that smoke? How do we know that that's smoke? How do we know that smoke in that cigarette that's giving you cancer? It's a logical, it's a logical thing.
going down to my level. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm
Oh,
telling
I
you
understand
what
you.
would be helpful to this board.
Okay.
You can either take that advice
I
and do
am-
nothing, or, you know.
I apologize. I apologize. Just deny the application. Let the courts deal with them. That's all. I don't
Anybody
think-
else
I
have
don't think
anything to
it's a
say?
good, I don't think it's a good business. Landscaper, yeah. Landscaper supply, no. Okay? It's like all this storage outside. It's like having a warehouse with no walls. That's what it is. When you storage outside like that, it's a warehouse without walls. You hear everything that goes on. Thank you, and I apologize.
It's okay, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, I'll take a motion to, go ahead, ma'am. Good evening. Name and address,
My name
please.
is Mary Short. I'm Jeffrey's wife. I live at 116 Merritt Avenue alongside the property. I just need to give this information. I was diagnosed.
Please speak into the mic.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer a year ago. I have never been sick a day in my life other than giving birth to 2 children. So I just wanted to let you know, I don't know what it was. There's no family history or nothing. So I don't know where it was, where it came from. But I just needed to let you know. It's a possibility or it's not a possibility. But I don't know. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, I'll take a motion to close the public section.
I had a motion before we close.
Close the
I'm
public?
closing the public session. Make a motion to close the public session. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Sir?
in the microphone, please. In your mic, in the microphone, please.
I don't think it has a problem.
Can you, on the record?
I have an objection to that information going into evidence at this point. It certainly doesn't have a foundation or basis for any of these scientific conclusions that are being drawn. I had a chance to look through it a little bit, and I think it needs a lot more support before you can consider it as evidence. So if you're going to accept it at all, I think you should mark it just for identification, and we can let the objectors perhaps meet some standard of reporting.
Right now, all it is being produced as, marked as an exhibit. It's not accepted as evidence. Once again, this is not a court of law. This is a planning board. The rules of evidence are a little bit looser, but your objection is noted, and I will look into the issue, and if this application gets carried, if you're asking for a vote tonight, I'll make a decision on the dais, but if you're asking this application to get carried, I'll look into it and make an advice to this.
Well, I would like an opportunity to listen to the comments that were made, sort out what we can deal with and address it. Because not everything that was said is something that we can address.
Go ahead.
This binder, I think, contains a lot of exhibits. I think they have authenticated many of them. There's certainly enough evidence to show through their testimony and these photos that there's dust, there's water, and there's sound issues. Some of the other issues in here regarding silica and cancer causing, I think that's almost judicial notice. Everyone knows about that. So I would accept this. I don't think you can accept this binder wholesale as not in evidence or in evidence. I think you have to go through it individually, but I've seen enough in here to satisfy my view that this is authentic and you should accept it.
Well, I would just comment, that's all fine until you get the sound meters out there and start understanding what 80 dBs are during the middle of the day. And impact noise is exempted from those regulations. And what we heard was substantiated estimates of the volume, and we heard about impact noise with the bang. That's not.
The binder's not the sound. The binder's the dust, the water, the property damage, the dead trees. That's all.
Well, likewise, I say the same thing about the dust. It's, how do you, I mean, we need some evidence that the dust is there to begin with and where it locates and how volume it is. And then you get to your point of whether it is even a hazardous issue.
I don't know, I think we all know it's hazardous. I don't know if it's the cause of a lot of these issues. I'm not a scientist, but I think there's enough in here to authenticate this binder and consider it as evidence. And then we can go through the additional testing that the chair and the other members of the planning board had recommended, so we can get to the bottom of this and try to determine if this is a nuisance and how do we abate it to judge your application. And I think we all know here, we're not here in isolation. We're here, and I know your engineer, in her testimony, she did indicate, she gave a pretty basic history of the property. But this is a tortured history. I mean, there was an approval back in 2001. It wasn't, wasn't adhered to. There were numerous violations. You go into court, judge issues an order to show cause and joins you. You blow past that, you don't comply with the order. So some of these objectives are right. Why, we have to be very skeptical on how we accept the representations that are made on behalf of your client, because it doesn't seem to deter them at all. So, this is not an isolation. This whole thing wraps together, and we want to get this right. We want to make sure that these residents are protected. And that's a big concern. And you're asking for a variance, and I think 9 or 10 waivers at Cabinet. So we need to consider all this evidence. And I don't find anything in this binder to be objectionable. Authenticity is a very slight standard.
Look at the very first pages on the inside of the cover. Yeah. I mean, what's that?
They're safety data sheets. Now,
What is that? I mean, that proves nothing.
No, I don't, you are objecting based on authenticity. And I'm saying these are authentic documents.
Mr. Chairman, I absolutely agree with the board member. Some of this, I think what is being objected to might end up really be going to the weight of the evidence rather than whether or not they should be admissible. But ultimately, I do agree. Either way, you can't just look at this binder as one in of itself, an item. You have to look at each individual, because there are definitely pictures in there that were authenticated, that are pictures of the site or pictures of the neighboring property owner that are legitimate, that can be considered by the board. And, to what extent, to what they actually prove, well, that's up to the board to decide. But the fact that should they be admitted because they were taken by a resident, he said he took them, he explained the angle and on the date is labeled on them, I think they would be admissible. But that's why I said, and why I was kind of pushing it back, saying, I can rule on it later, because I think we need to actually go through page by page and determine, what would be and what isn't. But I absolutely agree with the board member in general terms that, a lot of it has been authenticated, and it may just go to the weight rather than to the, to whether or not should it be even considered by the board. But at this point, I think what we're deciding is that it is marked, it is in the record, and whether, to what extent we can discuss and determine at the following meeting if that's where we're going with the application. What do you want?
I want to be able to come to the next meeting and satisfy all these issues, which not sure it can do.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to scheduling, your next open meeting is March 20th. You have February 21st and March 6th. You've already got applications that are scheduled, so the next open meeting would be March 20th.
Like that, we have to.
I think you'd want to preserve notice and carry.
You want to preserve notice and carry?
Yes.
So for the record, do we normally take a vote here on carrying applications, or is it just the chairman's?
No.
Take a vote.
Okay, all right, so
Why don't we
let's
take
do the vote first.
All right, we're going to take a roll call vote to push this off, and
Till March 20th.
everybody in favor? Aye.
I'll do a roll call.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Hakevich?
Tommy, I'd like to see, before we vote on this here, I'd like to see a list of the bullet points, kind of like the memorialization that we get from the engineer, the planner, and the attorney, of all the variances that they have, all the not just waivers, but the deviations from the original approval. Is there any way that we can see that before? Because there's been so many things that were thrown out here tonight. I don't know what we agreed to. I don't even know half what we're talking about.
The vote, just to
Agree to anything,
clarify,
yeah.
the vote is just to carry it at this point. It's not a vote to approve or deny or
Right.
anything. So you're not, if you vote yes to carry it, you're not agreeing to anything at this point. And
That's my proposal that we.
What you would like is to have all the waivers and variances on one sheet of paper, so when we do address it the next time.
How we're agreeing.
so that could be provided for the next hearing. So you have, or prior to the
Let
next.
them address it, you know.
Mr. Chairman, you have in your packet a copy of all the deviations from the current plan to the 2001 approved plan. So you have, I think it was 21 different bullet points that summarized what was originally proposed and what they actually have out there. So that you have, so it sounds like you just want a listing of all the variances and waivers that are now going to be.
You can do that.
So we're still taking a motion to carry this to March 20th. So Mr. Hukevich? Yes. Mr. Allegra?
Yes.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Larman? Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw, Mr. Shaw? Councilman Zabrowski? Chairman Ty?
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
And,
This-
Mr. Chair, if I may, just for the public's aware, this application is being carried to the March 20th Planning Board meeting. No further public notice will be provided. This is your notice that the hearing will continue on March 20th. So if you want to continue to participate, please appear on March 20th.
There is nothing before the board.
No, so, the next thing, our next meeting is February 21st. Jay?
Chairman, your next meeting, as indicated, February 21st, the Majid Sadar Community Center on Ernston Road. That's the application that's scheduled for that evening.
So bring a lunch.
Do we need to take a motion to open to the public again?
Motion to open to the public.
Motion.
Motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Anyone from the public like to speak?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second? All in favor? Opposed?
Having no new business, I make a motion that we.
Adjourn?
Second. Second.
All in favor? All right, everyone, see you on February 21st.
Thank you very much.
Or you can modify.
Be a machine now and power.
Mr. Chair,